Draft Mechanic is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Pull up a chair at punchboardmedia.com. Draft Mechanic, episode 107. On this episode of Draft Mechanic, hey, have y'all ever heard of Gen Con, I think they call it? It's kind of a big deal, and we went there, and then we recorded every single night about what we saw, what we played, what we did, who we talked to, all those usual things. It's kind of like our tradition at this point. So, yeah, sit back, relax, grab a pint, and enjoy the show.
You've seen the future, and it works to take a mile.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Draft Mechanic. I'm Jake. Now you say your name.
No.
Come on.
And I'm Danielle.
And
I'm Shane.
Yes, and this is the special recording live at Gen Con 2019 episode, which is why it sounds quite different. If you are listening to this as your first episode of Draft Mechanic, I apologize.
Done it wrong.
I apologize, but I guarantee we're also going to have some fun. I'm going to turn my levels down even more because this is the hottest microphone in the entire East Coast.
So hot.
So yes, we're doing our end-of-day recordings that we do each year at Gen Con. And this time, we're going to probably record all of them at the end of a night. I think that's the actual plan, instead of recording them the next morning when we remember to.
Oh, yeah.
If this is your first time listening to Draft Mechanic, or if you met us at the show, hey, nice to talk to you. It's awesome to have met you, and or have handed you a card or ribbon to tell you about Draft Mechanic. You can find us on the internet. It's draftmechanic.net or at Draft Mechanic on your favorite social media services, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much those usual places.
Board Game Geek Guild, Guild 2470. We're there, too.
Yeah, we have a Slack channel and all that stuff. And we have our buddy Shane here who's joining us yet again. You've been on every Gen Con episode, right?
I didn't go with you your first time.
Okay.
That's right. We didn't have a podcast our first time.
Is this
That's
4?
true. This will be the fourth one you've been on.
Yeah.
I think other than people who have been in our Time Stories group, you are the most regular guest on Draft Mechanic.
I did it.
So congratulations. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Shane, after 4 years going to Gen Con, how has life changed for you? Not like life, but like your approach of Gen Con.
It was a much slower walk-in this morning, so less rush.
Yeah. Don't feel like as panicked to go see everything anymore.
No, it was good.
Yeah.
It felt nice.
And I honestly kind of felt like there wasn't... Each year, there's been less and less panic rush stuff when we first go to Gen Con. And definitely today, this is weird for me because I have the media badge, but this is the first year that Gen Con didn't have early access for media. And it was kind of weird to go back to coming in with everybody all at the same time again after so long. Which is obviously what y'all have been doing all these years.
We're so good at it.
It was weird for us to have you there. We were like, who's this Jake?
Who is this person and why is he excited to get into this crowd of people? I don't know, Danielle, how did you feel about the first day this year overall?
Fine.
Yeah, just
it
fine?
was fine. I was able to get through the entire hall on a first pass, which is something I have not been able to do the last couple of years. And I think it came down to the fact that I stopped and actually did full playthroughs on fewer things this year.
Yeah.
So now I've gotten a pass through of everything and can go back and dedicate time to playing the games that I really want to play without having to worry about just, what might I be missing out on to not get to see, or what haven't I made time for. So I'll definitely be going back and getting in more games tomorrow and Saturday.
Yeah, and you did your traditional thing where you started off at the 3,000 block and worked your way back.
I did, and the only thing I bought today, I bought in that first full aisle that I walked down. I bought the 2 Thundergryph games that I talked about on the Hype episode, Hats and Rolling Ranch.
Okay.
They had some cool promos. They had an extra suit of hats for Hats and the solo variant for Rolling Ranch, as well as some little stamps, because Rolling Ranch is a roll and write game, and you're supposed to be drawing little animals on your player mat.
Yeah.
So they have little stamps and a stamp pad for stamping your cows and sheepies and chickens and such.
Yeah. I started off kind of as I wanted to. I was going to just start hitting up a few booths. I tried to go to the Ravensburger booth to start off and get Las Vegas Royale, but it was the line for Ravensburger is the longest I've ever seen it. It was, half of an entire aisle down all the way down to the front wall of the exhibit hall.
Not for Las Vegas Royale, though.
No, it was for the Villainous expansion and the Jaws board game and some other, I forget what it was called, a horror-themed board game that they have. I don't know. It apparently sold out very quickly, but I was able to saunter back up a few hours later and grab my Las Vegas Royale, so I'm very happy about that.
And then paid for them.
Yes, I also paid for it. Yes.
It wasn't Grindhouse, was it?
I don't think so.
No, that was from somebody else. That was a horror-themed game that I kind of wanted to see, and I
Yeah.
did. It looks, I mean, like you would expect. You definitely take injuries and lose limbs and try to get through this weird, creepy house.
Losing limbs. Shane, where did you start off today?
I just did a really good job just accomplishing nothing today throughout the day. So a lot of steps, a lot of walking around, but didn't really do much. I don't even know where I started. I
Yeah.
think I started with you guys.
Yeah, you followed me as I wandered aimlessly for a little while and looked at long lines and was sad and moved on with my life. You picked up Artemis Project.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I looked at it last year. They had the demo,
Yeah.
and forgot it existed until a couple days ago.
Yep.
So picked it up.
Yes. Let's see. I continued wandering on after that. I went to like a bunch of different lines. Oh, we tried to get the Quaxaquedlinburg expansion, but they only have 20 a day.
I mean, they did just get them in air
Yeah.
freight, so air freight is expensive, and you don't send a lot of things that way. You send a small number of things for which you dole. I mean, they are doling them out by day, which is nice. They didn't just
Yeah.
sell all 60 or 80 copies, whatever, today, and then everybody else is just out of luck. So you can try again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we'll get it when we need to get it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had an opportunity to swing by the booth of Adam's Apple Games. They've done a few games that we've talked about here and there on Kickstarter segments. They had
Truck off.
Off. They also did Bruin USA and did Sword Crafters, which was a big hit, I think, last year at Gen Con. And the one that I wanted to check out is something we talked about in Kickstarters a little while ago called Thrive. And this one is really got my eye, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not backing it now, honestly. It's kind of like an Onitama style game where you're trying to, or chess or something like that, where you are on a grid and you're trying to move your pieces to capture the opponent's pieces. But what makes the game really unique is the way that movement works. In a game like Onitama, we always talk about how you're changing out your movement cards and swapping those cards so you have different options available to you. The thing that was really interesting about Thrive is each of your pieces has its own movement rules, and basically it's each piece is a square with a 5x5 grid of holes. It starts with a peg in the center hole and a peg one above that. And the way movement works is each piece can move using the red peg in the center as a reference to what the other pegs are. So all your pieces start with one peg directly ahead, meaning that your first move, you have to move one of your pieces directly forward one space on the 6x6 grid of the game. And then as you move, you then put two pegs into any holes of your pieces of your choosing, expanding the options. So as you go on, your pieces get more and more powerful. And the thing that I didn't really, I looked at this when it was around on Kickstarter, but that I didn't really get a feel for until I was playing it, is how you really have to be smart about how you're placing all the pegs on different pieces, because if you commit a bunch of your pegs to one piece and it gets taken, then you're just immediately out of options for your movement, except for your base pieces again.
So pieces get taken if you land on them? Or
Yeah, if you land on somebody else's piece, you take that piece in standard chess kind of movement rules.
How you win?
You win by reducing the other player down to one piece.
Oh.
It's not even removing all their pieces, which is really kind of interesting. It's removing, so that they only have one left on the board. And I actually really like that, because I feel like if this had gone to you eliminate the other player, it probably could have just continued to go
Just
on
drags
forever,
on.
and it just drags out. But I was playing this with Adam of Adam's Apple Games, and he obviously knows the game super well, so he annihilated me. But I really liked seeing that, because it showed me that this is the kind of game that you will develop a skill curve for, and you're probably going to learn a lot more about the more and more you play it. So, yeah, I am really looking forward to Thrive, and I think that that's going to be a strong title to play when this hits. It looks like it's going to be hitting distribution late this year. He's aiming for Q4.
Just speaking of Adam's Apple Games, I was also over there at a separate time, and I was looking at their Truck Off Roll and Write game.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is just a pad of the roll and write sheets. It's there's not a box. It's a provide your own dice type of thing. You can use the truck off dice, but it's just a set of polyhedral dice. So If you have a D&D dice set, you can use that.
Okay.
And the way it is, there's a grid of a city, and there are some locations that you're sending your truck to, and you roll all the dice, and then you choose one of them to send your truck to. But once you go to a point on this sort of track of shapes, because the locations are the shapes of the 6 dice faces, once you move along the track to a position, so, if I take the purple die, I need to move to the next purple space and write the number in there, you can never go back. So if you take a really advantageous die, that's good for you because you get a good number, but it eliminates the stops you can make. And if you make 3 separate stops on one of the rows of the dice track, which is a serpentine row, you get a bonus. So you want to make a bunch of stops on the same row, but sometimes it may just be worth it to be like, okay, this one's a 20. I'm going to take that because if I take a bunch of low numbers, it's not even going to add up to 20. Huh. And you're making a path through the city, and you want to get people visiting your food truck. Their theming reason was like, you have a food truck, it doesn't go that far, so you can only go to these specific locations. Nice. That's what your tank of gas is. So that was another thing I was checking out from Adam's Apple.
That seems interesting. Yeah, but I have to swing back and pick that up. I didn't even see that, I guess because it didn't have a box.
Yeah, it was just like on a document stand next to the truck off demo.
All right. Shane, what games did you get to take a look at today?
I did a demo for Burgle Bros 2.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It was very similar to the first one, just a little bit more difficult. We lost very quickly.
Really? So. What's the changes that have been made to make it more difficult, you think?
There's a lot more of the spaces that you go to that will trigger an alarm so that the guard comes to find you a lot faster.
Oh, okay.
So, and I mean, Burgle Bros, the first one, I think goes a little bit too long, so it's nice to trim it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, some small publishers like that are coming back and revamping those early games. This is a thing that I feel like Ryan Lockett with Red Raven Games is doing well. He did City of Iron and the Ancient World 2nd edition, and there's a few. Oh, Empires of the Void is the other one that he did. He's really, refining his games with the lessons he's learned. So it's interesting to see Tim Fowers doing the same thing. Does it? Yeah. I
was going to say, is there any reason to own both?
I don't know. It's a different theme. So the first one is just a heist. I'm not really sure where off the top of my head, but this is you're in casinos.
Oh,
so a little bit more of the Ocean's 11 theme. So if you want a different theme, I mean, I don't see myself picking up the second one. I have the first one.
But if somebody came in, maybe they'd at least take a look between the two of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. I took a big time out in the middle of the day, so I'll talk about that class later. But Danielle, what else did you get around to in the morning today?
I got a chance to play Arch Ravelry, which is a game about knitting different types of projects. You can knit hats and scarves and mittens and bears and that type of thing. And this is where you're collecting resources. You have a set of cards that are out there that will provide you yarn resources, but you also have like crafting recipes, and you have this grid of 4 action spaces that you're going to move your pawn to. And it's kind of, and I make this comparison only in the mechanic, not in the games whatsoever, but it's kind of like Scythe, where when you take an action, the next turn you must take a different action.
Yeah, okay, sure.
This game is not at all like Scythe other than that, but so one may allow you to take a bunch of yarn, one may allow you to craft multiple items, one will allow you to do both of those things, but to a lesser degree. Maybe instead of taking 3 yarn, you take 2 yarn, and instead of crafting twice, you take 1, but you get to do both of them in the same turn. And then there's another one that allows you to switch out a yarn for a different color of yarn. And you're trying to get these yarn colors so that you can make the recipes that are on the bottom. And then once you've made them, you can either turn them into complete orders. Maybe there are a row of orders at the top. Maybe you need 3 bears to complete one, or mittens and a hat and a scarf to complete another. Or you can take the token and turn it in, and you use that to learn the pattern. Mm-hmm. And what that generally does is it opens up the availability of the colors you can use, because now you don't just follow, I need orange on these 3 and red on that. Now you know how to make a hat. So if you want to go back, you don't need to use the exact same color yarn, which is thematically the idea. It just really opens up which resources you can use, which is good because you do only have those 6 resources, or 6 resource cards. Some of them have more than one type of yarn on them. But maybe there's no green out, and your hat or your mitten pattern requires green.
Okay.
Well, if you've learned the mitten pattern, then you can use whatever colors you want, and that's going to open it up. There are player powers. This game was super fun, and the art was absolutely adorable. I have the artist's name written down. It was Rochelle Stetter.
Okay.
Is the artist for Arch Ravelry, and it's absolutely adorable. It's not going to be like the most mind-blowing game. This is not going to be our progressive game of the year next year.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I liked the theme. It wasn't like space or gladiators or whatever, trading in the Mediterranean. It was crafting with yarn, and it was fun. And there are some action cards that give you a little bit of variety, but I'm looking forward to it. They're doing kind of a neat thing for their Kickstarter, which is going to be in late September, where if you just pay $5 now, it'll get you on their newsletter, and you can push that towards the Kickstarter. It gives you a discount later. They're just trying to gauge interest.
Okay, cool.
So that's a thing to look for if it sounds interesting.
This is coming from XYZ Game Labs.
It is.
Okay, cool. I'm just looking at their BGG page right now. There is a website. It is archravelry.com.
Of course it is.
Good website. Better than most brewery websites. Let's see. What else did you get into in the morning?
I got to see the new game in the Takedo line of games that I think Funforge is bringing.
Yeah.
It is called... It looks like it says Namiji. It's kind of hard to read the font, but I believe it is Namiji. And it is very much like Takedo. Like, if you're looking for a game that is going to be radically different, this is not it.
Yeah.
You are, again, moving along this path, and you can go to a spot, but once you go to a spot, you stay there until everybody behind you has gone to a new spot. And it's very similar to Takedo. You've got the landscapes, but instead of being like paintings as they were in Takedo, you're putting together parts of fish to make a fish. I don't think that's how fish work, but
Fish
whatever.
building.
Fish welding, there you go.
You're building fish. And there's a fishing option where you're taking these fish tiles out of a pool of fish tiles, and you're trying to put them into your net grid so that they are all the same color or shape in different rows, and you'll get bonuses for doing that.
Yeah.
Instead of going to a meal when you get to the sort of pacing points where everybody has to go to a spot and stop, you get special powers, sort of like the special powers from your character in Takedo.
Okay.
But like you can get powers that are going to make certain actions more powerful when you stop at them later in the game. The path is longer than Takedo. If you like Takedo, you'll probably like this, but I think this is another example of you probably don't need both.
Gotcha.
If you like fishing better than journeying, you're wrong. But you could get this game. It again has that really minimalist art style that Takedo has, and everything I saw was still prototype, so I can't be like, oh, it's exactly the same, but it does still feel. It's got that white box, and the board is very sort of minimal. You can see.
Right.
Our listeners can't see, but
No.
you can. I'm holding up my phone.
Oh, I see. Imagine a whiteboard with dots and a path on them. Yeah.
I also got to see Battle of the Bards, which was a game that I said I was a little bit excited about and was kind of bummed out about.
Yeah.
It's fine. You are playing these Bard cards out, and you get dice from them, and you roll the dice, and you can turn in small straights, so 3 of 3 in a row of a number to get performances, and then you turn in the performances to get the audience cards. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
I like the
didn't blow me away.
I like the thought of Bard cards, because that's fun to say.
Well, yeah, and the cards were absolutely adorable. These are sort of cartoony, anthropomorphic animal type of bards that are singing. One of them was like a big chunk of wood. It's like a stump. There's one that's like an alligator or a dragon or something like that. And you have a bunch of cute little bards, and they're all there, and you can adjust the cards that you have out in front of you. But a lot of the time that I was playing it, I felt like there wasn't anything that I could do that really made an impact and made me want to play that card really badly. It didn't feel like I was having a meaningful effect on my game.
Gotcha.
It's just fine. I think it's from Junk Spirit. That's the publisher.
Well, that's kind of a bummer. But, I mean, that's kind of the joy of the con, is that you get to go and see games that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Few quick hits from me. I got to pick up the Imhotep Duel, which I've been super excited about. They had tons and tons and tons of copies, so...
Yeah, we talked about that last episode,
yeah,
right?
not hard to get. And I took a very quick look at a game called Iron Forest that is coming to Kickstarter in September from Brain Games. And this is basically if you took Ice Cool and then stacked another Ice Cool on top of it.
Put holes in the top ice cube.
Yeah, it looks like it's a similar kind of thing where you are, I guess, you're going to be, flicking penguins around this thing.
It's not penguins, it's robots.
Yeah, if you haven't played, well, I mean, they had the penguins. Okay, so it's robots. If you haven't played Ice School, it is a dexterity game where you are penguins in a school, and you flick the little kind of weeble people from penguins from one box to another with the goal of going underneath doors and getting fish. But basically, you flick things around, and it feels fun. Iron Forest, I don't know what the game condition is, like what the wins are, because I didn't see like any fish to grab, because apparently they're robots, so you say.
There was one that was actually modeled out with the model.
I see it there.
Yeah.
I was just playing with the penguins because I know their features. But it's...
Wings,
yeah,
a beak.
I know how to flick a penguin, all right? I've done it before.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't have any clue what's going on with this, other than it's a 2-story Ice Cool setup that has holes in the top, and then there's also this device that is basically like one of those things at the bank where you put the tube in, and the pneumatic tube, except you drop your penguin in the side of this tube device, and you like pound it with like a hammer lever at the bottom, like you would see in a circus.
You launch it.
Yeah, you launch it, and the penguin shoots up the chute and comes out the top and hits this like disc at the top that redirects it hopefully onto the game board, and that is amazing, and I love it, and I want to know everything in the world about Iron Forest. I posted a picture of it on the internet, and somebody immediately said, Eric Yurkos probably knows about that one. And he said, yep. And I said, you're hiding under the table right now waiting to steal this, aren't you? He said nobody would ever notice. So I think they will notice.
Yeah, I think it would.
If this podcast needs to be used in a court of law, I just made that up. Eric did not tell me that he was going to steal this device.
He's not going to steal that device. He'd never get it on the plane back to California.
That's true. But that looks really cool. I enjoy Ice Cool a lot. It's fun. So, yeah, I'm excited to see more about Iron Forest.
Can I jump in with another thing that is just, like, fun and ridiculous?
You may.
I got to see Pigasus.
Oh, gosh.
Which is a game that has these cards, and the cards are a combination of two animals. They are the body of one animal and the head of another animal. Mm-hmm. And they've been seamlessly blended to make one weird animal. And you're going to flip out these cards, and the object is to find a pair where you have the head of one animal and the body of a second animal on one card, and the head of the second animal and the body of the first animal on another card.
I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, it was surprisingly difficult. I was playing this, or watching it. I wasn't playing it, but I was looking at it fairly early in the day, so I was not, like, burnt out on seeing stuff or tired or anything. But just looking at these and being like, why does that shark have a giraffe head? Why does that look like that? I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't make any sense. And this is a very simple game. You're just touching two things that match. It's basically the mechanics of Spot It.
Yeah, okay.
But just trying to parse these animals was absolutely ridiculous. And when you find a pair, actually, instead of pointing at the cards right away, you squeeze this squeezy pig, and it makes a little dog toy noise. And then you take the cards.
A squeaky pig?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to go look at this game. Squeaky toys.
Yeah.
I'm not a dog, I swear.
Okay. But yeah, it was just absolutely crazy and very. I mean, I guess after you played it a bunch, you'd get used to the shapes of the animals, but I did not get used to it watching it played. That's for sure. I
don't ever want to get used to a world where I think a Pigasus is normal.
But it's so cute.
The art did look really cute. I'll give them that. Yeah, Shane, you have anything else you want to bring to the table?
No, like I said, I did a good job of accomplishing very little today, but hopefully tomorrow is a little bit different.
Yeah. The bulk of my day today, or not bulk of, but right in the middle of the day today, I took an improv class.
Nice.
So I think this is worth mentioning. I kind of, I've alluded to it once or twice over the last few episodes that I signed up for an improv class, but I signed up for this class that was being run by Karen Twelves. She wrote a book called Improv for Gamers that I picked up back at Origins, and it's just a kind of a tool book of different improv games, icebreakers, stuff like that you can use to get people thinking in that state of mind, and also just some longer form exercises about creating characters, specifically, role-playing characters is in there, and a lot of what we did today was stuff that was from that book. So we did a lot of things about understanding the foundations of improv, specifically, how to offer up a concept to somebody else, how to work with an offer, how to, phrase those kind of things correctly. And we also did some activities designed to kind of silence the inner critic and get you thinking quicker, which was a lot of fun. One that comes up a lot, I did a demo at Origins, is a game called Three Things, where you turn to somebody, and maybe I'd say to Danielle, I need you to name 3 things that are red, and you'll say 3 things that are red. So go ahead.
The cable for the microphone jack that's over there.
Okay.
The recording track, and that stripe on your shirt that you were wearing yesterday because it had a rainbow on it.
Okay, cool. And then everybody goes, 3 things. And it's stuff like that's super quick, and it encourages you to just think on your feet and think quickly, and then you have that kind of group cheer that, hey, we did this thing. And it was really cool to do these activities and really think about the way that we are, quote-unquote, winning at improv, because we're doing this in a gamer kind of mentality. And the winning in improv is really all about just making that scene successful and knowing when it's time to move on, when it's time to release that particular content. And it was just a fantastic experience. I encourage anybody who's interested in stuff like this to pick up Improv for Gamers. You can get it at improvforgamers.com, I believe. And I've linked it on Twitter a few times. But really fun. And this is the first time I've taken like a class or something fun like this, a seminar at Gen Con. And I gotta say, having this in the middle of my Thursday was really great, because as typical, about 3 hours into that exhibit hall, I'm just like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I had a chance to go be silly with a dozen people, and that was just fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to doing more of that kind of stuff in the future.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about improv class?
No, but I do have a transition, because one of the games that we got to play later in the evening, this is not going in chronological order, but nobody cares, is we got to play a game called Medium, which is coming out from Greater Than Games at Gen Con, which is largely based on an improv exercise.
Yeah, it is.
Where everybody's got a hand of cards in Medium, and one person is going to play a card in front of their partner for this particular exchange, and then the partner will play a card back in front of the first player. And then they count down from 3, and they both say the word that they think meets the 2 words. So, if I put down chocolate in front of you, and you put down celebration in front of me, we might count down from 3 and both say cake, hopefully.
I was thinking cake.
Yeah. I know.
I was thinking birthday. So.
Okay.
Well, it's a good thing
Shane?
that you weren't in this example, Shane.
We were going to round 2.
Yes. So if you do like Jake and I were just saying, and you match, then you will take the point shit, which is from the highest value point shits. They are, I believe, 5 and 6 in that first pile. And you'll take it, and you'll both get points. If, as Shane and I did in this example, you don't get it the same, you will then count down from 3 again and try to find a word that joins the 2 words you said, not the original 2 words, and you can't use the original 2 words again. And if you get it right on that time, then you'll take from the second pile, and if you don't, you get one more time, and if you get it right on the third try, there's a third pile, 1s and 2s. If you don't get it right after the third try, then it just moves on. You don't get any points. You did nothing to deserve points at this moment.
Then you feel sad.
And you keep going until you draw 3 broken crystal balls from the deck. They'll be in the bottom third of the deck. And at that point, everybody looks at their point shits, and whoever has the most points is the winner of Medium.
Now, I've played, obviously games like this in the past. There was one that we used to play on our phones called Say the Same Thing that has disappeared from the internet for some reason. But the foundation of it is great, and I really do appreciate how Medium has gamified it a little bit by adding in, 3-round maximum is nice. Giving you prompt cards is kind of nice as well. One thing I will say is that when I'm the second person in playing down my card, I am spending so much time looking at my cards thinking, what can I make out of these cards that will be a good, branching point for a middle. So, if I had, what did we have? We had one that was very good. Or, if I had red and you had fruit, you'd be like, oh, fruit's super easy, because we'll both probably say apple.
But we won't, though.
Well,
I was thinking strawberry.
Well, crud. So, not the best example, because Danielle has, torpedoed the example. Thank you. But maybe if you're looking, I put down red and you don't have any word that's anywhere like it, you just got to stare at all of your words a whole bunch of time. And this is what happened to me again and again. Alex was playing in front of me, and he'd play a card, and I'm like, I have nothing that I can even find a bridge in my mind, knowing full well. So that's a little annoying, but I guess that's also part of the quote-unquote fun of the game, is trying to find that weird link.
Well, I mean, it's a game where you're supposed to be a psychic, so the second person obviously has a word in their mind when they play their card. That's why they played that card. And the first person is, I guess, taking the role of the psychic.
Okay.
But yeah, there were definitely times when I was looking at my hand of cards, I'm like, none of this makes any sense. I I don't think that there's an obvious connection between any of these two things.
Right.
The other thing that was a little frustrating is that when you got to the third round, a lot of times we were dancing around the same idea. Like,
Yeah.
Shane and I had one where in our second round, we had both said, like, I had said iron and you had said pressed. And those aren't the same thing, but they're the same idea, and they were around the same idea. And we couldn't use the words from the first round, and we couldn't use those words, and it was a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, this isn't a game that lasts forever, and it was like 20 minutes to play the whole thing.
And I actually anticipated hating it, and it wasn't terrible.
That's good.
I mean, I think if you were, it depends on who you're playing with also. I think it could get out of control and inappropriate and lose its fun pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I think we held it together.
Yeah. I think it's also the kind of thing that you want to make sure you're playing it in a scenario that you can pay attention to it. We were actually playing this at the Rolling Dice and Taking Names meetup, and it is, I mean, in a situation like that where you're getting distracted, I had a hard time really kind of focusing on that. But maybe that's just me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is definitely a party game. This isn't something you play at a quiet game night. But at the same time, you do need to focus on what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to take forever, and that's just boring.
Yeah. Let's see. We also had a chance to sit down with T at HABA and talk about some of the stuff they've got coming up. The one that I was most interested in, and I'm going to slowly stall to pull up this picture, is a game called Miyabi that they have coming out at Essen this year.
That was called Miyagi.
No, that's definitely a B.
Huh. I was wondering why it was called that.
Miyabi. This is a polyomino game where you are drafting tiles out of the center. The tiles are between 1 and 3 squares big, and you have a player board in front of you with a 6x6 grid, and along the left side you have different, features. So you have different flowers or something?
One's trees,
and then
one's
benches.
like rocks, and garden features.
But each of the tiles also has one of those features on one of the 1 to 3 squares on there, and then however many spaces that particular tile is how many of that feature there is. So this one is 3 chair thingies on a 3 tile. When you draft a tile, you have to place it you have to place the feature on that tile in the row that corresponds to that feature, and you're going to have 6 turns in every round, and you have to place one feature in every column as well. So in addition to making sure you're getting stuff in the right column, you've got to get in the right row, and then you have to obviously only use each column once before you reset. And we only get to play one round of this to kind of get a feel for the way everything's set out. But your scoring is the number of features that you have, and then it will also be as you build up, because you can place tiles on top of other tiles
You're going
once
to have
they're
to.
fully supported. When you get stuff up on higher levels, it'll score you more points. And it's just a really interesting way to kind of meld, kind of like the way number 9 worked, is kind of what I'm thinking, but then with a really interesting tile placement mechanic there, where you're forced into placing stuff. Kind of like with Azul, you have to put stuff in specific rows, and you can only fit one in that particular row at any given time. So really interesting game. Excited to know more about this. This is a Michael Kiesling design that they're putting out at Essen this year, I believe.
Yeah, they also had a fun game where you were finding similar features on cats. Like, everybody had a cat card, and I do not remember the name of this because I don't believe it had an English name written on the box.
Something like Cat Masquerade or something.
Yeah,
like
she
that.
said they were renaming it for English.
Club der Tatzen is the name of it currently.
That is definitely not in English.
Club der Tatzen.
But when you play a card out from your hand, the card has a pose on it, and it has a color. It may have spots or stripes. It may have an accessory. And everybody has 3 secret attributes, and anybody whose attributes match the card, at least one of them, places one of their mask tokens onto that card. And you're trying to figure out what everybody's attributes are, and when you guess all 3 of one person's attributes, the game ends, and you count up the number of points that you've earned from guessing other people's attributes and from not having yours guessed. And it was a fun little game. It was definitely one of their family games that they are pushing right now. Obviously, HABA is great at making family games that you can play with any age group. The Miyabi one that we were playing is more of like a gamer's game, or good for game night line that they have. But the Club der Katzen was definitely a family level game, and I think it would be great to play with kids.
Yeah.
Because not only is it, there's some insightful thinking. There is some deduction that you can do by seeing what people have placed on, and there's only one of each of the attribute cards, so if I know that you have, the cat in the weird playing with yarn position.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I don't, or not I, but like T wouldn't have that, or Shane wouldn't have that. So there is a little bit of deduction, but I don't think it is to a level where you couldn't play it with kids, especially like older elementary school age kids.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be fun, and the art is cute, and the theme is fun. So I think that'll be a good one from them too.
Yeah, I just, I'm always really happy to go to the HABA booth at Gen Con because I think we've talked about this last year. They're really pushing into this space in between the, younger games and then this
Unicorn,
more...
glitter, luck style
Yeah,
games.
exactly. Or your, animal upon animal kind of stuff to more of this perfect for families, perfect for game night. And I'm always excited to see what they're doing because I feel like the stuff that they're doing is really a space that people aren't doing as much as they should be. Is this, great, early teen available kind of... I don't know what I'm saying with that.
They're really growing with kids, aging with kids.
Yeah.
So keep them interested so they don't lose... There's a level of gaming that they can play as they get older, so they don't lose interest in gaming in general.
Yeah.
And then they can still feel included. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something you know about.
Right,
You've
for
got
sure.
Kids in all of the age groups.
Every age.
Do you have much HABA stuff?
Not a ton of
HABA
stuff, no. But it'd be nice because, like, my oldest will play Scythe.
Yeah.
But we can't do that with everybody.
Yeah, I don't think your 1.5-year-old wants to play Scythe.
I'm sick of you judging my children. But no, it's awesome. I always look at it and then just never pull the trigger. So maybe this will be the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I was amazed how many things they had as well. They had probably 30 or 40 titles in the booth there.
I feel like last year they did too.
I mean, maybe that's just HABA. HABA just has such a wide range of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and they had a lot of like travel games in tins. They had that snail game, which also came in a tin, where it was essentially like Camel Up or Hare and Tortoise, where you're moving different snails around the track, and everybody's got secret snails that you want to finish first, second, or third, but you're moving them along, and part of the track goes over the side of the box, so the snails have little magnets on the bottom, and they climb up because that's how snails do.
No, that's really cute.
Snails are known for their magnetism.
They sticky.
Let's see. What else did you take a look at? Did you remember anything else you want to bring up?
I got to play the Detective Club from Blue Orange, which is by the makers of Mysterium. And it has similar cards to Mysterium or to something like Dixit, where you have these cards that are evocative of lots of very weird scenes. And what you have is everybody gets a chance to be the clue giver. So there's not, like in Mysterium, where one person is the clue giver for the round.
Yeah.
And they're going to look at their hand of cards and pick a word that goes with 2 cards in their hand, and that they have a reason for why it goes with 2 cards in their hand. And then they're going to take these little notepads, which are the number of players minus 1, so they're going to give one to every other player. And on all but one of them, they're going to write the word. So if we 3 were playing, I would take 2 notepads and I would write the word on one and not write the word on the other. Then you're going to shuffle them up and people will pick one. If you are the person who got the word, congratulations, you are going to be playing sort of like Spyfall. You're going to be putting your card out in front of you. If you're the person who didn't get the word, again, you still have to play cards, but you don't know what they are. You see what my cards are as I play them. So I'll start, I'll play my first card out, and then we'll go clockwise, and everybody's going to play out their 2 cards. Then at the end of that phase, I'll say, okay, my word was magic or distant. Those were 2 examples from our demo. And I picked these cards because I think it goes with this, and I think it goes with this. These are the reasons that I had for this card. And then it'll go to the next player, and they'll be like, okay, this is why I picked this card for the word, and this is why I picked this card. So even if you didn't know what the word was, you have to come up with what the reason is that you totally knew what the word was and played this card. Then at the end, all the players except the person who wrote the word originally will take their little magnifying glass token and put it in front of the person that they think didn't see the word. If they guess correctly, and there are, I believe it's 2 or more in a 4-player game, magnifying glasses in front of the person who did not have the word, then the people who are essentially trying to spot it, the people who got the word on their pad, will get points.
Yeah.
If they incorrectly guess who didn't see the word, if they're fooled, then the person who made up the word and the person who didn't see it will get the points.
Okay.
So you're trying to sort of come up with this story as to why you may or may not have known what the heck you were talking about. And with these cards, there's enough on them that you can come up with a good story even if you didn't see it.
Okay.
And there are definitely going to be times where you see the word and you're just not holding it. For the distant round, I had 6 cards that were all close-ups of stuff. So I had to play one of a woman with her back turned. I was like, oh, her back's turned, so she's being distant. That was sketchy as heck. But that's what I had. Everything else was like, here's a really close view of something, which is not distant.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I like it. I think it's way shorter and way more manageable. You go around twice, so it's going to be way shorter than something like Mysterium. And I like the fact that it changes roles. It's not one person who's in the stress of being that card giver the whole time. It's like Dixit, where you actually get a chance to do both roles.
Okay. I do like it when they have the role reversal in those games. So this is Detective Club, and that is from who?
Blue Orange.
Okay. Cool. Oh, yeah, okay. I remember that box cover now.
I also got to play a game called Kawaii from Helvetiq, where you have cards that have ice cream cones on them, and everybody starts with a secret hidden shape and flavor of ice cream that are their favorite. And then all the players are going to be flipping cards out in front of them, creating rows. And you can take a row by playing a claim token. If you play it on your own row that you're creating, you get those cards and the token goes back in the box. But if you play it on somebody else's row, you get those cards and they get the token. So now they have more opportunity to claim cards from other players or from you or from themselves or whatever. You go until everybody runs out of the cards and you count up. You get 1 point for each one that matches the shape that is your favorite, 1 point for each matches the flavor that is your favorite, obviously 2 points if you've got something that is the flavor and shape which is your favorite. There are cherries which are worth a point when you score them, and there are these closed store cards that are worth -2 points unless you get all 3 of them, in which case they are worth, I believe, 5 points. So you go through, and then whoever has the highest score gets a win, and then you played a best of 3. So it was fine. It's very adorable. But the game was fine.
Fine.
This is definitely something for people who either like very, very simple games or for younger kids. And I think with the art, it would be great for younger kids.
Gotcha.
But it's fine.
Let's see. I mean, other than that, I pretty much just wandered around. I had a few more games that I picked up here and there. Oh, you have another one?
I do. You and I both got to play Tonari.
Oh, yeah.
Tonari.
Yeah. Tonari.
Which is from IDW Games, and it is a lot like Seikatsu. If you've ever seen the board for Seikatsu with the hex-shaped board, which has different hexes on it, and it's got those little Bakelite tokens on them. This one is fishing themed. You are living on a fishing island, and last night there was a horrible storm, and we only have 1 boat left on the island. So all of the best fishermen have been put on this boat, and they're going to go out and try to catch all these fish. Problem is they have to take turns driving the boat because, they're all great fishermen and they don't want to share. And what you're going to be doing is, on your turn, you move the boat token to an adjacent tile, and you take the little Bakelite chip that's on it. You can't move onto a blank tile, and you must move if you can. If you can't, the game is over. It's a set collection thing where you're going to be collecting either colors of fish which score pyramidal scoring. Is that what it is? 1, 3, 6, 10.
Pyramid shape.
Yeah. There's also a majority, so you get 8 points if you have the most shrimp, but if you are tied for the most shrimp, or if you are second or beyond that, you get no points for any shrimp. There are some action tiles that allow you to switch the locations of things, so if you want to make sure that the game does or doesn't end at a certain time, you can switch the location. You can switch chips with other players' fishing baskets, so the stuff they've taken off the board already, if you get certain action tokens. And you can double the value of one of the colors of fish if you want, if you get one of the action tokens. There's also some trash, which is worth -5 points, so you can sort of force another player into taking that because you have to move to an adjacent space if you can. And you keep going until you can't play anymore and just add up everybody's score. I really like this one as well, which is not a surprise because I love Seikatsu. It doesn't have this sort of really plenty thinky board aspect that Seikatsu did, but it does feel very much like that game.
Yeah.
Just sitting there and playing it, the feel of it was good, and I enjoyed this.
No, I really, really dug that as well. I almost completely forgot that was a thing we did today.
It was right at the end of the exhibit hall time that we had.
Yes, and as the exhibit hall was ending, it was time for us to go to an event. The event that we do each year, the Rolling Dice and Taking Names Strike Tournament Meetup at the Old Spaghetti Factory. It's like the one thing that I ever schedule going at Gen Con anymore. Like, I know, like, at least I want to get, I got to make sure I get this on my schedule. And it's as fun as always. I'm super excited that BJ, Doctor from Board Game Gumbo, won this year.
So it is going to be Gladiators and Arena again.
Yeah, it's almost as if, those who believe are the ones that have the most strategy and power to make it happen.
I don't like where this is going.
I believe, but I was out very quickly.
Yes.
I'm not a strong believer.
I guess you didn't believe in your heart as much as we thought. I love playing Strike, especially this particular event. It's just so much fun, and you get to see a whole bunch of fun people.
Yeah, I love that event, and I'm glad that we go every year.
And a $10 dinner at Gen Con, not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all.
Not at all. They have a lot of great support from different companies and publishers and different creators even. They were saying they had some support from, so they really make it an awesome event. Marty and Tony always do a great job with that.
Always a shining part of Gen Con.
Before we do wrap up, though, we also got a chance to play Honey Buzz yesterday.
We
did
should
not
talk about that
record
yesterday. So we got to look at the upcoming Honey Buzz that is coming from our friends over at Elf Creek Games. This one is hitting Kickstarter, I think, in November, and it is kind of a action selection economic game.
Bees. About
bees. You are creating your own hive, but the way actions are taken in this is so unique and interesting, and I love this, and I don't think I've seen this kind of thing anywhere else. So you have in the center of the table, you have the main board, and the main board has a worker placement section on it where you place one of your workers, or if there's already workers from other players or your stuff on there, you have to place 2 or 3 workers, one more than the number of workers that's, been on that space. And you're taking these kind of double hexagon tiles that are parts of your beehive, and you're going to place that hexagon into your hive adjacent to other hexagons you already have, and the tiles are made in such a way that one side of the hexagon has an action on it, and once you place 3 of these double hexagons in a circle surrounding an empty cell, you're going to get to take all of the actions that are adjacent to that. Now, that, depending on how you orient your stuff, that could be pretty much anywhere from 1 to 4. I think I had a few times where I got 4 actions from completing a cell.
Yeah.
And those actions relate, obviously, to the tiles you took of, gaining more workers, so you can, do more things before you have to recall your workers, or you can go foraging for honey, which will allow you to get tiles that will fit into those empty spaces. I'll talk about how all that works later. You can you're foraging for nectar to fill the spaces. You're generating honey on the nectar spaces once you have them, and then you're going to use that nectar to sell into the market, fulfill orders.
Like bees do.
Yeah, like bees do. They sell it to the bears. It's a bear market. They're very proud of the pun of the bear market where all the honey goes. So some of them is just selling the honey itself for however much money. What?
I feel like, in defense of that pun, it's a little better pun than that, because every time you move the market, it goes down.
Yes.
So it is a bear market because the market is always going down.
Yeah. It's a great pun.
It's a good pun.
It's a fantastic pun. And then there's also order cards that, like, maybe they want 2 different types of honey, or honey and a pollen, which is kind of your consolation prize. The way that the foraging works is kind of interesting. So on that main board, you have the 4 different types of nectar split up, and then each of those types of nectar has 6 hexagon tiles that are face down, and you know which section it comes from, but only half of the tiles in that section are that kind of honey, and the other 3 are the other 3 kinds of honey. So you might go foraging for it and look and like, I need wildflower, and you flip over a wildflower and you're like, oh, this is acacia, and that's not what I need. Because the way that the tiles are laid out when it creates the holes is going to dictate what kind of nectar can go in there. There's borders on the tiles in certain ways, and depending what borders are around that center hole after you make a full cell determines what kind of nectar can go in there. So you're kind of risking and also doing a little bit of a memory about whether or not you're going to be able to take that particular token and put it in where you need. And this action selection hive building thing is super, super unique and super neat. And from talking with Brent at Elf Creek, they've done a lot of development in this game, and a lot of that, they have worked on everything except for that one action placement mechanic thing in the very center, which is just so cool, and I love it. I want to play more of this game.
Well, we will.
Yes. What did you think about it? I just said a bunch of words.
I enjoyed it a lot. I liked the way that you had to plan not only the actions that you wanted to take, because obviously you're not going to be able to take actions if you don't have those hexes on your hive, but also the way that you place them into the hive to be able to get different types of the honey, or the nectar rather, because the acacia, which is worth the most in the market, is the most difficult to make the shape of, because it requires that you turn the hexes onto the short side, so you're only adding one side to the sort of whole border, because the hexes have brown borders on the sort of the part around the waist, or the hourglass, the sides, and they have a white border on the top and bottom. But to be able to make the shape, you need dark borders on certain edges and white borders on the other, and the acacia is only brown borders on two sides and white borders on the other, so you have to spend more time making that shape. You need to place more hexes in just because of where the white borders are. But if you manage to do it, then you get a higher payout, assuming that you do it before somebody else takes that market and absolutely tanks it. So there is a little bit more, do you want to go for the strategy of getting the more difficult honeys, or do you just want to get a bunch of wildflower or a bunch of, like I did in mine, rosemary honey, and just try to spam that, hope the orders come up to get you a bunch of points that way, or just sell it and tank the market and absolutely hope. There's also some game end conditions that may be helpful for determining your strategy. Like in our game, you got points for having the most nectar spaces, so in that category you're going to want to build a lot of easier things instead of holding out for that one, because you're going to have more of them. And there's was one that was like unused honey, gave you a bunch of points. And there's one that was having all four different types, so whoever got all four different types first got a benefit. So depending on what those variable points conditions, and they had a whole pile of them, that's going to dictate how the game plays and change your strategy, which I thought was really good.
Cool. Yeah, Honeybuzz, super, super awesome. I'm sure we're going to be talking more about that as the Kickstarter goes up later this year.
Also, the B art's very good.
The art is really good. I'm so excited to see more of that. Thank you for remembering that. I almost completely forgot, since that happened yesterday, which is a decade away at this point. Well, anything else you want to cover? Shane, you got any final words on the Thursday stuff?
I'm cashed.
You're ready to take a nap. Yes. It is late on Thursday, and it has been the first day of Gen Con, so I think that's as good a place as anywhere to end it.
We have been talking for 50 minutes.
Wow, this is a long first segment. I hope you all have enjoyed, so thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back in minutes or seconds, honestly, from your perspective. But
tomorrow from ours.
It's going to be a bit. All right, good night.
Want to wear your Draft Mechanic pride to your local brewery, board game meetup, or board game meetup at a brewery? Check out redbubble.com/people/draftmechanic for t-shirts.
Oh boy, it is definitely Friday night.
Is it? I've gotten the date wrong several times.
Okay, so
today.
Technically it is Saturday morning, but it's 12:24. We are recording this at the end of the day Friday, so I feel like we've done a good job. Do you feel like you did a good job today?
I feel like we've done the expected job.
Friday was definitely the day that I spent the most time walking around in the exhibit hall, I think, which is...
Of the 2 days,
Of the 2 days. Well, I feel like Thursday is a lot of running back and forth and a lot of panicking to get hotness, and then Friday is the day that has the least people in it of the 3 main days. Obviously, Sunday is the lightest, but Saturday, tomorrow, is going to be the most packed of all the days.
I disagree on both counts, but that's because we're different people.
Okay, so what do you think?
I definitely thought that yesterday was more chill.
Okay.
The hall felt way packed to me today as opposed to yesterday.
Okay.
Like, I felt like every time I was trying to go somewhere, I couldn't get there. I had to go, 3 different ways. So it felt busier to me, but then again, I also didn't spend as much time in the hall today.
Fair.
We
You
had a couple
lot
of
demos,
meetings, which don't feel like being out in traffic to me. Like if you're standing in an area of a booth or at a table. And I went to an event down at Lucas Oil today, which is something I didn't actually do last year. But I was down there today, so that was a chunk of my morning. I guess technically early afternoon.
Yeah, I've still never been down to the stadium. I should probably make that happen at some point.
You know the football? It looks
heard
like
of
the
it.
football.
Yeah. Is it all like kitted out as if we're still football? Are you walking on the turfs?
They did have some of the plastic flooring pulled up, and there were these two kids that were like, the mom was very clearly just trying to tire them out, and they were running in circles on the field. But most of it was just plastic covering to protect the turf from
I guess
the tables.
We're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves there because that's kind of your middle of your day. But what did you played something very exciting in the beginning of the day that I am desperate to hear about.
I got to do a demo of 1001 Odysseys, which we talked about. It's coming out from Asmadi. They're still just doing demos of it. It should be fulfilling, I believe she said, later this year. I want to say November, but that could be something else that I'm remembering the date.
I'm pretty sure that one's going to be early next year release.
Yeah.
That'll be a 2020 game.
But it is very cool. I didn't quite get the full grasp of how the system was going to work just from looking at their Kickstarter page, which makes sense. It's very difficult to understand some of the spatial stuff, particularly. So there's a map, and you have a storybook, and you are given a point where you're supposed to put a card. And the map has letters on one axis and numbers on the other, and you put the card, and the card is separated so that there are multiple locations on each card, but they're each in a different grid location. So you line them up, and the pictures match with the map in the background. So you find where the picture on the card is, and that's where you place the card onto the map. So, maybe the bottom location will be in C3 and the top location will be in B3 because that's just how the card lines up. And all the cards have different symbols on them, which indicate types of actions that you can do. You'll read a starting paragraph and it'll give you some options. There are 4 different positions on the team. So you'll have an operations person, you'll have a navigator person, you'll have, I don't remember what the other 2 were. I was the operations person and the navigator was the other one that got most of the main points in the demo. But the navigator is in charge of placing out all the cards. The operations person is in charge of controlling this mission control console, which is actually what gives you the choose your own adventure codes that you need to read specific paragraphs.
Codes.
There are 4 slots and a mission slot that you are going to be placing cards out onto, and when all of the cards are full, you'll read the code for the focus that you're working with, the mission, and then the 4 other slots, and they will tell you what paragraph to read, and it'll give you a little blurb and give you either directions or an option. Maybe it'll tell you to put out a new location, and then you can go do that, and you'll get another blurb, and you continue to move through, but you can always go back to other locations as long as you have a focus that has the symbol of one of the symbols on that location. When you change focus on the mission control board, which is essentially like where you're directing your attention. So at the beginning of the scenario that I was playing, it was about finding escaped pets, or not escaped, stolen pets from a pet store.
Ooh.
So first we were doing something that was investigating where the pets might be. So there was a icon that went with the vistas. I think it was like a sunrise. And we were going, and then we found a clue. And the clue was like, oh, go to this shop. Maybe this shop will have information about how the trackers that were installed worked. So then we were going to the shop, and we couldn't just walk around and investigate vistas anymore because that wasn't our focus. But it changed a number of times, even in just the short demo that I was doing. So it seems like you're going to be getting some of the information, but you probably won't be able to get all of it before what you're doing changes, but it may change back, which was kind of interesting. And you get these just nice adventure paragraphs, and you continue through it. The art was absolutely gorgeous. I really liked the way the mission control console worked and how there were different jobs. I was really pleased with this. I'm very excited to see the rest of it when it comes out.
I'm really glad that you had such a great time with it. listeners of the show know this, that I am way more into hype and, the promise of a game, and I will back things well before I know anything about them. But to hear from you after you've actually had a chance to play and see how some of the game works, that it is that good, makes me feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been excited about this since last year, and I am having gotten some evidence that it is going well. I'm very excited to see it all.
Well, good. Yeah. So hopefully we will know more about 1001 Odysseys early next year, or maybe late this year. I'm not really sure.
Not right now, that's for sure.
Not at this time. So speaking of things that have hype associated with them,
good transition.
Yeah, it's a great transition. No, I'm just going to skip it. I played the new demo scenario of the new Time Stories Revolution, the new system that is replacing our beloved and often unbeloved Time Stories. If you have been listening to Draft Mechanic for a long time, you know we have a love-hate relationship with Time Stories. Mostly love, and then most recently we've been very frustrated with the way that the last 2 or 3 scenarios played out.
They don't know that because you haven't released the Madame spoiler yet.
No, but we've talked about Madame.
Okay.
We talked about Madame at the end of the year wrap-up, and then again in our top games of the year, top games ever list. Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating. It was a frustrating end to it, and won't go into spoilers of that, obviously, because I know there's plenty of people out there who haven't played it yet. But at the same time, I was interested to see what this new Time Stories Revolution system brings to the table, because to be frank, a lot of the mechanics in Time Stories were starting to show their age. There's other stuff that's come up from behind, like Unlock is really popular. The exit games are really popular. We are madly in love with Escape Tales, and put a pin in that for later. We'll come back to that thread later on. So it's interesting to see. I wanted to see what they would do with the Time Stories universe and the mechanics to make it fresh and new. So I had a chance to play this demo scenario called Damien. That's going to be only a convention demo. It's not going to be one of the actual boxes. But it is kind of like they did for, there was one Santo Tomas de Aquino. Yeah, that was a prelude to Brotherhood of the Coast. This one is a prelude to one of the future Revolution scenarios. And your big changes in this is really that we have removed the board and they've removed the dice. You still have a deck of cards that represents locations, and you're going to be doing the same thing. When you go to a location, you take out the location panorama, you set out all the cards, you read the card A, and it tells you what's going on in the photo, and then you choose, which spaces each of the agents wants to go to. They're going to read their card, and they're going to do, maybe a test, maybe they'll get an item, maybe they'll be a dead end and not do anything at all, maybe they'll get a piece of information. But the way that they've changed it by removing the dice is really affecting the way that the tests work, obviously, because you're no longer, I roll 3 dice and need a number of successes. You have your 3 statistics. This one was, I think, physical and social and like lock picking or dexterity or something like that. My character was 3-1-3, for example. I also had a lock picking set that gave me a +1 for any lock picking tests, which was cool because I came up against a lot of lock picking. And in addition to that, like say if I had a lock picking challenge that was a 4 and I have 3 and I have the +1 there, I'm thinking, okay, 4. That's going to be great because that gets me my exact number that I need. But you'll also flip over a card from this Destiny, quote unquote, deck is what they call it, which is some cards from -2 to +2. So it gives you a little bit of that uncertainty and randomness. The thing that was interesting here is that you have the ability to spend some of this energy crystals. You have energy crystals that allow you to take additional actions, look at additional cards. It kind of replaces the temporal units time track system.
Wait, there's no time track anymore?
Yeah, there's no time track anymore. It's all replaced by these crystals, which is how much energy you have to do actions before you have to pull a reset. The resets do kind of still exist, and I'll get to that in a second. Just bear with me on the tests here.
Roar.
Okay, so yeah, there's no time track anymore. Sorry. So you can spend some crystals to increase your, whatever skill number in that one, and then you're going to flip over the Destiny card. You get result of the test. And one thing that I thought that was really interesting is that while you would expect there to be like a victory or a fail condition, a lot of the cards have a hit the number exactly condition as well, which is kind of an interesting thing, especially when you get that +2 -2 component in there. You might think, okay, do I want to risk getting a fail just because I think I can probably get right on because, you know which cards have come up, and it only recycles after you've hit a certain card in that Destiny deck. I think it's one of the +1s or something has a reset in it. So you can try to aim directly for that perfect number, or you can safeguard and go way over, or you can, obviously fail and get the negative thing. And sometimes there's ones where it's either fail or succeed, so it changes depending on the test. And I thought that was a really interesting way to change that system. It worked out really well, and you have the ability to support other players by spending one of your energy to give them a +1 as well. So changing that system, removing the dice, and kind of going back to the basics on a system like that in a way, so that it's because later on in Time Stories we had kind of some other things that were messing with all of our stuff.
Yeah, I'm confused about the idea of do you have personal energy pools?
Yes.
Or it's not.
So everybody has their own personal energy pool, which is also dictated by your receptacle. In this, at least, I assume this is going to be all of these, but again, we don't know because we don't know anything about the other Revolution scenarios. But maybe at the beginning of the scenario, I started with 5 energy, and I think everybody probably started with 5 of the energy. When you go to a location, your first action is free, and then if somebody wants to scan an additional card or go look at an additional card, they can spend an energy to a central, called the vortex pool, to look at another card, and any energy you spend goes into that vortex as well. When you all run out of energy, you can do a reset, that you spend one of your energy from the vortex and put it over on this mission card, and you re-split up all of the energy back to everybody. And there was a mechanic that we didn't use that was a full reset, that was like a mission reset that you had to reset and go back, like your typical Time Stories. But one thing that was interesting about the resets is that as we were doing these little, I guess, soft reset or whatever it was called, we're not having to restart the whole scenario. So we actually played through this whole demo in one run, which we did in Santo Tomas de Aquino as well, but I think that that's really kind of just the point of a demo scenario more than anything else.
That sounds fiddly as heck.
Yeah, it does, but I think that's just because I'm granularly explaining it more than anything else. Okay. It was way less fiddly than doing a whole bunch of resets and moving TU and all that stuff. The other things that were really interesting about this, we had always heard that this is going to be more quote-unquote character-focused than the old Time Stories was. There was still a nice little puzzle in this demo scenario. I won't spoil it in case anybody wants to run it at a convention, because it is actually a pretty neat
I would like to run it at a convention.
Well, you can do that. I'm sorry I've spoiled this for you. You'll forget. But we collected some tokens as we were going, and these tokens were used in that puzzle. So there are still other pieces in the game, kind of like the little, the tokens that we used to have, the squares and the symbols and stuff like that. But the tokens in this one were different sizes and different things. Like there were some hexes, some rectangles, and they all kind of related to the story of what was going on and gave us little actual visual pieces of the story. One of them was important for establishing like a timeline of events, for example. In addition to that, with the character quote-unquote focus, one thing that was really cool is that sometimes you would get to a card and it would trigger and it would say, look at your interaction card 4 or whatever. And you have your character's receptacle has its own deck of cards, and you look at this deck of cards and you flip over card 4, and that one has a reaction that is unique to your character. This is a really neat idea, and something that I think they tried to do a little bit in Time Stories. Every now and then they'd be like, if you have character blank, then do this. And some of those are still in there. But having that anybody can access this and it's going to give them their own special thing was a really neat way to kind of change that system. I enjoyed that a lot. Do you have any thoughts about how that goes?
I mean, I'm curious to see about it. It would be interesting to make the receptacles more of a feature in the game.
Yeah.
But still not. Like, I don't think that this is a change towards what I wanted Time Stories to be. This whole, everything you've described to me sounds interesting. And I want to see what it is. But, this is not what I was hoping for. And I'm not as jazzed about it as you are.
Yeah. The final thing that was kind of interesting is that every receptacle had its own little, quote-unquote, secret mission card. For example, mine was I needed to help the other 2 characters in some way. I did, help them succeed at a test. And after I did that, I actually got a reward. I got an item card. So it looks like they're giving you an opportunity to have kind of like a little bit of a secret motive in a way. And I don't think anybody's was, sabotage the group or something like that. But I was the only one that was able to get mine triggered, so I don't really know. But it seems like that they're trying to give the characters more personality and the receptacles more personality. And again, I'm interested to see how that ties into where we are in time stories in general, because like we kind of have alluded to, this is in some way connecting to the white cycle. We don't know how yet, but apparently all of this is still connecting to the white cycle somehow. But yeah, I don't know. That is Time Stories Revolution. Apparently we're getting 2 or 3 scenarios by the end of this year. I talked to Kevin and Melissa Delp, who are actually Tantrum House, and they are the original designers of one of them, the Hadel Project, and they said that they're really hoping to see that hit stores by the end of the year. And they were really interested to see how the system has changed as it's been moved into this new system, because it was obviously planned for the white cycle before and has now kind of been reformatted for the blue cycle.
That being said, Melissa said she was still looking at some test stuff, so it's not super far along.
So I'm sure we will continue to have an eye on that, because Time Stories is and will always be part of Draft Mechanic until they really just shy us away. Danielle, what else did you get into today?
I mean, I played the Imperial Settlers roll and write. It was fine.
So roll and write?
Yeah, I mean, they bill it as a engine building roll and write, which I kind of do get. You put your dice rolls into creating buildings, which are going to give you additional dice rolls on later turns. So, like, if you build a farm, you get an extra food every roll. So that sense, it is an engine builder. And there is kind of a neat thing. There are fields that you can bridge into, but you need to place your actions into marking off the row that has the bridges on it, and you only get the benefit once you have completed the section which has that bridge icon on it. So at first you get a couple of benefits, and then you have to put more actions into developing that row in order to be able to get more of the bonuses. It was all right. I think I'd probably rather play like 51st State. I've not played Imperial Settlers, but they're based on the same thing. But it was fine. If you are looking for a roll and write and you want something that has a little bit of an engine builder feel, that was fine.
Yeah, I'm getting a little exhausted by blank the roll and write versions of games.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see like the truck off one. I still got to remember to swing by and take a look at that, but I don't think I needed this to be a roll and write.
No, but a lot of people do like Imperial Settlers, and for them, that may be a thing.
Yeah. I swung by the Good Games booth this morning as well, and I got a chance to check out a little card game called Fluttering Souls. I think you talked about that as well at some point, or at least you had a chance to go look at it yesterday, right?
I certainly played it yesterday. I don't remember if I looked at or if I talked about it, but it does feel it's got a setup that if you've played Seven Wonders Duel will feel very familiar.
Yeah.
Where you've got a variable set of cards that are laid out kind of like
it's like a mahjong style.
Yeah, like a mahjong style, and some of them are face down. And you can take ones that don't have any cards that are laying on top of them, and it's a set collection game.
Yeah, so you have a bunch of different kinds of butterflies, and each butterfly has its own scoring rules depending on how many cards of that set you have. I know that you were never a big fan of Seven Wonders Duel. I liked it some, but we both kind of felt that it fell into the thing where you will just get stuck in a point where you know exactly where your next move is going to be because, you know, the cards can only come up in certain ways. The one thing that I really enjoyed about this, there's one card, one particular butterfly that you can place, if you have it in your set, you can place it into the space you took a card from, which allows you to turn kind of that flow of cards just at the right time. And I do really like that, and I think that that's really the thing that takes this from a game that I would have been like, okay, so we're collecting sets too. Okay, so I actually can use some strategy here. I have the decision about when I'm going to use this card to kind of turn that flow. And another thing that was interesting, I was playing with a designer, and I like being able to see that I get absolutely walloped at a game like this the first time, because it tells me that there is a learning curve and there's an ability to really kind of get a feel for the way the cards come out and what things you need to go after. And I got absolutely walloped in this game, unsurprisingly.
Oh.
It'll take me a little time to... Again, you get to beat me first at a game, and then I eventually get good at it.
Okay.
I won't get good at this, but I'll continue to like playing it because it is a nice, quick, card game. And I was sitting there talking with the designer. It was, demoing and showing me and playing it. Hi, Joel. It was a lot of fun. And we got to the point where we were just in the game and we were just having conversations about all sorts of other stuff. He's from down in Australia, so we were talking about breweries from down there and just, the travel over. And I really enjoyed having that weight of game be something that was so quick and easy to teach that this might be one of those bring it out first at game night. If Daniel shows up really early, we play something, 30 minutes or something like that to just kind of get into the rest of the game night. When he didn't work nights.
No. I mean, That game played in like 5 minutes. I don't...
Oh, you're supposed to play 5 rounds.
Oh, okay.
And then it's best of 5 wins.
Okay, I just played 1 round.
Yeah, and then after each round, whoever lost gets to choose if they want to go first or second, so on and so forth.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's Fluttering Souls from Good Games, so yeah, that's neat.
I got to go play a demo of Mechanica, which I think was something that I had talked about.
Yeah, that was really high up on your hype
being
list.
Excited about earlier. I got to play it. It is a really cool game. You are making Roombas because you are a Roomba corporation. I'm sorry, you are making sweeping robots because you are a sweeping robot corporation. And you are going to be creating your 3 different assembly lines. At first, you start with only 1 fabricator, and it makes one of the most basic type of sweeping robot that you can make. And you can put it into your small truck, which can only hold 1 sweeping robot, which is perhaps a bad truck. And you can sell it for a very low price. But there is this cool rotating portion where you're going to be placing upgrades to your assembly line. And they start out costing more money, but as they are saying on that wheel, they're going to be reducing in cost. So you go from $7 to $5 to $4 to $3 and continuing down. Mm-hmm. If you buy them, then you can put them into your assembly line. They don't need to slot into the next spot, but they need to be able to fit somewhere where the puzzle piece shape that they are fits appropriately, and they are all nice little puzzle pieces. And then when you run your assembly line in the future, the robots from the fabricators will go through those things. And there are stuff like duplicators where 1 robot comes in and 2 robots come out. Mm-hmm. There are ones that upgrade or downgrade, so take your white little basic robot and turn it into an orange medium grade robot or a purple high grade robot, or take your purple high grade robot and turn it into 3 orange medium grade robots.
Oh, cool.
There are gift wrappers that are just going to give you an extra $1 for having a robot pass through them because you can sell it for more because it's gift wrapped or whatever. There are flight simulators which allow you to test to see if your sweeping robot flies.
I guess you just got to know. It's good to know if your sweeping robot is going to fly.
That gives you extra money if you skip over steps in your assembly line, but it allows you to fling stuff down farther. So maybe if you have things that would have caused a backup in your assembly line, you can fling robots farther down, because if at any point in the assembly line 2 robots have a collision at stopping points, you have to get rid of one of them. You get to pick which one. So it is forgiving in that way. But anyway, you're going to be buying these upgrades, and as they are rotated down in price, they are also moving towards this recycling spot, which is a hole in the box that if you rotate too far, the piece falls into the recycling thing, and you no longer can buy that upgrade. But the person whose turn it is can take the bots that are indicated in the icon for recycling on that piece that was just dumped. It's either 2 middle grade robots or 1 high grade robot, because essentially you're taking whatever the metal was that you were going to use for this upgrade portion and you turn it into robots instead. Mm-hmm. And that can be really helpful, and you have to be very careful to make sure that you're not leaving pieces that are on the wheel for somebody else. Like, you can buy upgrades and then just immediately recycle them if you want. You don't have to put them into your factory. So you're not only watching what you're doing, but you're also making sure that the other person doesn't either end up with an upgrade that's going to help them quite a bit, or with something that they're going to be able to recycle in addition to what they're doing on their turn. Mm-hmm. You can upgrade your truck so that they hold more robots so that you don't have to worry about a collision on that end. And there are also forks that allow you to move the robots through your assembly lines in different ways that you can purchase. It's really interesting, and I like the planning. And there is, in addition to just selling the robots for their face value, there are these blueprint cards that require certain types of robots. So maybe it's 2 orange, a white, and a purple, or a white and an orange. There'll be 2 out at any given time, and then when somebody completes one of those, you'll turn both of the cards so that you know that what they have been essentially activated. And the rest of that round, anybody can complete those, but after that, they will cycle, and there will be new cards up. Mm-hmm. So if you were planning for those, then tough luck. We have a new plan. But when you complete those blueprint cards, you get more than the face value for them. So it's good to plan into those.
Nice.
This was fun. It was absolutely adorable. I love the little faces on the robot, and everything was a fun time. The company is run by an arm robot called Armando.
Oh, great.
So it's absolutely adorable, but I really like the planning and the way that you're creating these assembly lines. I think it was really fun. It was just the right weight to not feel like your brain was on fire, but make you feel like you had interesting decisions and that you should pay attention to what was going on throughout the game. And I'm really excited about this. They're bringing it to retail in, I believe, November. They're doing a pre-order here at Gen Con where you get to get shipped with the Kickstarter backers, and they're like, I'm excited for this game. I'm going to pre-order this game. I just haven't done it yet because it's not an urgent thing, because you don't have to buy the game. Like, I just have to give them the money and put my name on a list.
Cool.
But I'm excited about this. This is one I'm looking forward to bringing to our game group at home.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get a play of that in. In terms of some other meetings we had today, we did our annual meeting with Direwolf Digital to see what they're going on. And it's been kind of interesting to see. When we talked to them last year, we talked mostly about Clank and, how they're doing the app integration and how Clank in Space, I guess that was announced 2 years ago, how they were supporting that with the new expansion. But we go back this year and they're like, we've put out like all of these games and all of these other games are on the way for digital platforms. I had talked in the Gen Con hype list about how the Raiders of the North Sea app was about to come out. It actually was released on Tuesday of this week. I didn't realize it was coming out that soon, but there it is. And like I had said earlier, the Raiders of the North Sea app is freaking gorgeous. They did such an amazing job adapting the art and just the graphical style of that and really giving it animated life kind of feel to it almost. And just the ability to kind of scroll up and down that board and just really look all around the world of the game board there was really, really exciting. Another thing I didn't realize when I was talking about it last week is that they put it out on Nintendo Switch as well, which is huge and awesome. And I love the fact that that is getting put on the Switch. A lot more board games are ending up on the Switch now, and that's a really cool place for them to be.
Yeah, they said they also have Yellow and Yangtze coming out early in the fall, and they released sort of teaser trailers for both Sagrada and Root, which are coming out closer to the holidays this year.
Yeah.
But they are still working on those. We were talking to one of the folks over at Direwolf Digital, and he was saying that the AI for Root is absolutely just destroying their programmers, because not only do you have to have 5 different AIs, but you have to balance all of them.
Yeah.
And that's no small feat.
Yeah, and you've played Root. Are you interested to play that in a digital implementation because it'll, for any reason? Like, do you feel like that would make the game easier to learn or play?
I definitely think if you're going to be playing it, it would be helpful to be able to get some practice in, but at the same time, you don't really have anyone to question, so if you don't know what you're doing, you might be a little bit lost as to why what you're trying to do isn't what you really want to do.
Right.
It's going to come down to how well they tutorialize it, and while all their previous games have been excellent like that, and I have high hopes for it, I think it's going to make or break it on tutorializing.
Yeah.
Especially with so many different rule sets.
Yeah. So I have faith in them. I'm really hoping that one knocks it out of the park. And Sagrada is going to obviously be a huge hit.
Comparatively, Sagrada seems like it should be a piece of cake.
Oh, yeah. Or at least a piece of glass. But I'm super, super, super excited to get Sagrada on my phone, just because that means I get to play more Sagrada. They also had the first production copy of Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, which is the full name of the game. So that box is very large. It's about 1.5 times the width of the regular Clank box and maybe about 50% deeper as well. And we actually saw the unboxing of it at the Renegade Games kind of Renegade Rally is what they call it, later that night. And it is just packed full of stuff. So if you like Legacy games and you like Clank, I'm sure you already have this on your radar. I think we're pretty much done with Legacy games for the time being, just because we can never get them finished. We're still trying to finish Charterstone right now.
We've been busy.
Yeah.
They are saying that it's going to have the same thing that Charterstone does, that when you finish the campaign, you have a fully playable, customized board game that's uniquely yours.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure how many people are going back to and using their games once they finish their legacy games. Now, they are supporting it with expansions. Like, it works with the upper management expansion for Acquisitions Incorporated, or Clank Acquisitions Incorporated Upper Management, I think it's called.
Yeah, something like that.
Lots of words.
Lots of words in those words.
And they had mentioned the C List, which was another expansion set that you'd be able to use with this when it's done. So maybe if they support it well enough, people will be able to
Yeah, that is kind of an
keep playing
interesting concept, a legacy game that has expansion content. Or not just expansion content, but content that you can use with the final world you make. I mean, there's a rich enough world with Acquisitions Incorporated. It's been running for like 10 years now, I think. Some ridiculously long thing like that. Like, I was never really, I'm not really in that circle, but I imagine that there's enough content there that they could pull and continue to bring cool things into that world. So if they are able to make a legacy game that you continue playing after you're done with it, I'm interested to see how that works.
This is the point where I would normally ask Shane what he feels about it, but he is a tuckered boy, which is why you haven't heard from him yet this segment.
Yes, Shane is over there, but he is taking a nap. I guess that's just sleeping at this point. It is almost 1 a.m.
Yep.
Let's see. We also sat down with our friends at Board and Dice.
Oh, dear. It was so
boy.
good.
They brought 3 things to the table. We got to see kind of the plan for the deluxe edition of Yido, which is an older game that neither of us has played as far as I know.
No, I remember being very excited to play it when we first sort of got into board gaming, but then I found out exactly how mean it was, and I sort of backed off of it.
Mm-hmm. And that was the thing that Philippe definitely tried to say, is that it is still super mean, but there's different levels of meanness now, so you have different options of how mean you want the game to be. They've also, obviously redone all of the art, all of the components. They've added some specialized worker pieces
he
as
said
well.
it used to be that your workers were all the same and it didn't matter. Now the workers are specialized so that certain workers will be better at doing certain actions.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to plan out what you're going to doing based on what kind of specialized workers you have.
Mm-hmm.
He also said that there was a customizable difficulty level. So if you want it to be incredibly punishing, you can play with the incredibly punishing cards. If you want sort of an easier go of it, you can mix all the cards together, or I imagine you might be able to even take out the really punishing ones and just play with the medium and easier levels, but he didn't actually mention that combination. But you can customize what percentage of the deck are the ones that are just going to punch you in the face.
So yeah, that is coming to Kickstarter in later this year. I think they're aiming for September on that one. I know we also got a chance to look at, and I'm going to try my best, let's see if this goes well, Trismegistus? Trismegistus. You know how to pronounce this word.
I don't have the word in front of me, though.
Trismegistus. There we go.
Trismegistus?
There you go, Trismegistus. Anyway, this is a new complex dice game from Daniele Tazzini, the designer of Teotihuacan and Zulkan. And oh boy, hope you're ready to have your brain burned out, because it looks like every decision you make in this game is going to have about 17 different decisions attached to it.
Okay, let's make sure we actually get the correct name in
please.
here. It is Trismegistus, the Ultimate Formula.
There you go. The Ultimate Formula.
And that is not a bad subtitle for this game, because
Oh boy.
Philippe was trying to explain to us what it matters when you choose the die that you're going to choose to use for your
Your action.
selection.
Yeah.
And you only get to pick 9 dice the whole game.
Yes.
But the symbol on the die matters.
The color.
The color matters. The symbol next to the plate matters. The number of other dice that are on that plate when you choose to take it matters.
Mm-hmm.
And not even seeing what the rest of the board had. There were 2 or 3 other things about this dice selection that mattered.
Yeah.
And the way that you were going to need to have your levels of different ingredients, whether they were going to need to be sort of raw or refined, mattered, because that affected the symbol that you would need. It is the kind of game where everything you do has to be super carefully considered, but at the same time, it didn't look like, it felt overwhelming to hear, but it didn't look overwhelming to see.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of way I want that to be. It felt like Vinos makes me feel, where I'm like, okay, there's a lot that I need to get done, and I need to be very careful about what I'm doing, but I'm not bogged down in the minutia of the rules. It's just there's a lot that you need to consider.
Yeah, you have a lot of different options about what each of those things will do, and then really finding that optimal path in a limited number of actions is going to be super exciting. This is obviously, you're trying to get ingredients and refine them in certain ways to fulfill orders and do things like that, and there's also options for you to, get rewards for ingredients you have, and get these special bonus tokens that give you other powers. And I'll just continue to say those things like that. We're going to have to probably get some plays of this in before we're able to describe what is going on. But let's just say this would be a high gravity kind of game for us.
Yeah.
It looks heavy as heck, and I'm super excited to dive in.
Fittingly, they are releasing it at Essen.
Yes. Speaking of Essen releases, I don't know if you listeners out there who have been around and listened to Draft Mechanic in the past, you've ever heard of a game we've talked about called Escape Tales. It might have come up once or twice since October when we started playing Escape Tales The Awakening. Well, we got a chance to take a quick look at Escape Tales Low Memory, which is the next in the series that is coming out at Essen. And oh boy, it looks like we are in for some fun.
Very exciting.
So I'll give you the quick rundown. Obviously, we didn't actually do any gameplay of this because that would kind of spoil the experience of playing the thing. But it is 3 separate stories that each play in about 3 hours. The stories intersect, and they're different ways of different perspectives, different characters looking at the same situation. And there's also some really interesting things that have been done with the way the game is built that make me very excited.
Yeah, the 3 stories don't run exactly identically with different characters. There are some mechanical changes between the 3 stories.
Yeah, that's the thing that excites me the most. I mean, one of the things is the card layout board, when you flip it over, has a different card layout for the way you're putting your cards out, which is like huge and drastically different than the way the first Escape Tales worked. And I don't think I've ever been so excited for a game to basically have a huge mechanical shift in the middle of the game. And that's that's a concept I've never even thought of before. Obviously, you're still going to be doing cards and escape rooms and puzzles and all this stuff, but like a fundamental thing is just like, imagine if this board game just changed the way the board looked halfway through the game. What? Okay.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't the big point for me. Like, I'm excited for the 3 different storybooks and the intersecting points of the same scenario.
Yeah.
The board flip was nice.
Yeah.
But it's not what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the story, and I'm excited to see how these 3 different stories play out. I'm also excited that they have... It seems like the theme is still... Like, it's a weighty theme.
Yeah.
They're not taking on fluffy material here. But it does seem like it's going to be friendly for larger audiences.
Yeah.
The first one was very dark, and there were a lot of people every time we mentioned that this was our favorite game of last year, we were like, big asterisks, don't play it with kids.
Yeah.
Don't play it with people who may have, certain sensitivities. Like, it was a heavy and dark theme.
Yeah.
This one seems like it is still going to be a heavy theme, but it might be a little bit more available for gamers to play.
I'm super excited, and I'm also excited to learn the third one is in production, or not in production, but the third one is in the planning stages.
Yeah, they are working on that already, so I'm hoping that they continue to make these, because they're very good and they're exciting for the new one.
Next time, 75 boards.
No, that's too many.
We also went to one of our other scheduled events of this particular Gen Con. We went to a Vegas Wits and Wagers game show run by Bruce of North Star Games and of the Party Game Cast, the show about games you take to parties featuring the Party Game Cast. And that was a lot of fun.
It was.
It really is.
I mean, like, Vegas Wits and Wagers was a thing that I think they released 2 years ago.
It kickstarted 2 years ago.
Okay, and this is sort of a riff on that, which is going to be Wits and Wagers. It's Vegas Baby. That's going to be available in Target. And it is not quite the same as Vegas Wits and Wagers, but it takes the red-black mechanic where you can bet on whole swaths of answers. And it is absolutely just meant to be a game show, and especially a game show run by Bruce. He is a master heckler. And I know we had a great time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I never care how well I do in that game because playing is the friends you made along the way or something.
Yes.
Yeah. We ended out the night with the Renegade Games Renegade Rally we talked about earlier. Saw some of their new stuff. Saw Paladins of the West Kingdom. Got a quick play of maybe a turn or two of that. Seems like it's going to be interesting. It definitely looks like it's the heaviest of this series. So I'm excited to probably get full plays of that in.
Yeah, they said it runs like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's huge. It's a bummer that Will doesn't live down in North Carolina anymore because I'm sure that he would bring it to game night and we would play it.
That's fine. We will look at it later.
What else? They announced that they're doing a Vampire the Masquerade card game, which I'm not too concerned about. They announced a lot of RPG-related stuff from the studio that they're associated with.
Hunter Studios.
And let's see. the heavy metal RPG, like some kind of fantasy
Gods of
heavy
Metal Ragnarok.
Yeah. That looked wacky. They played a video for it twice, and it was a lot of heavy metal and a lot of really, brutal kind of looking, not like, super violent or something, but like heavy metal graphic and design and art.
Cartoon metal, essentially.
Yeah.
I was more excited about the Wardlings, which is a project that they're working on with Wiz Kids. Wiz Kids had the miniatures and I guess just the idea of these Wardlings characters, which are children who are adventurers, and they each have a familiar, but they'll go out and they have magic powers and will protect the village. And they've made a Dungeons and Dragons 5e compatible scenario where essentially these children are going out and they are protecting the village. And if your character happens to encounter what would normally be considered a character death scenario in 5e, instead they are whisked by their familiar back to their bed. And they wake up the next day a year older because, like I said, only the children have these magical powers. And as you get older and older, you essentially are getting closer to aging out of the Wardlings. And that if you have too many of these scenarios, your character is no longer playable in this game. One thing they did say, though, is you can then just take that character and move it right on to regular 5e, and then you have a regular adventure, which is
really
cool.
Interesting. I think it's a cool move for something like that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it. They announced a new source book for Overlight, too.
Yeah, this is the third book. And Kwanchai Moria is back doing the art on this third book. They had somebody else come in on the second book. And I'm always excited to see Kwanchai's art. He's fantastic. We got a chance to meet Kwanchai Moria. He is fantastically nice, and I was super excited to finally meet him. I am obviously a huge fanboy for his work.
Yeah, and he is a cool dude.
One other thing that we saw at the Renegade Rally, and this is interesting because it wasn't something that was in their video presentation, was this game called The Search for Planet X. It's being done by Foxtrot Studios.
Yeah.
It is a deduction game where you are obviously searching the night sky for Planet X. You are different astronomers searching the night sky, and you're looking for different
heavenly bodies,
asteroids, comets, stuff like that in the search for Planet X, which is a whole scientific theory that there is another planet out there beyond our range of vision right now that is affecting the way gravity and particles move in our solar system, so on and so forth. You can look up this research on the internet if you would like, because the internet is full of information for you. But I am always ready for another deduction game, especially one that looks like it's got a really solid foundation. This is going to be run by an app as well.
Yeah, it is definitely app requiring, not app assisted.
Yeah, this is you have to have this because looks like there's going to be a lot of different pieces involved, but it has a few pieces of cryptid in that, you're going to be you're going to be doing that kind of shared information. Everybody starts with a little bit of information, and that's going to inform the decisions that they make. A little bit of an Alchemist's, how you have to publish theories on a schedule to kind of say, I think that there's a comet in this sector of the sky, and then you're going to publish that theory. It'll eventually be revealed, and then everybody's going to have that knowledge. So some interesting pieces there that are going to take this and make this a really interesting deduction game. So I am super excited about this and learning more about this. This is coming to Kickstarter, hopefully later this year. I think they said
early October.
Early October, September. Yeah, okay. So The Search for Planet X is what we know about it now. I have a card to remind myself, and I'm going to be scouring Kickstarter every day until it launches, and then I'll back it immediately, and we'll talk about it on the show, because that's what we do. We talk about things on the show.
Yeah, I think we've been talking a little bit too much today.
Yeah, this has been a lot of talking for our Gen Con episode, which is good, because it means that we did our job, and we've seen some games.
Cool, let's wrap it for today, though.
Let's wrap it for today, and maybe tomorrow we'll talk about some more games.
I bet we will.
So we're going to do it. Good night.
No.
In Reavers of Midgard, the second standalone installment in the Champions of Midgard universe, you will be taking your clan beyond your own borders on your never-ending quest for glory.
Each player has a single worker they will place each round, determining one of the actions all players will take, and of course, gaining the strongest version of it for themselves. But be aware of your fellow Vikings, since you get to take a version of the action they select.
Use the powerful Reaver cards to recruit crew members and then to rally additional crew to lead your troops or to specialize in one of your actions, increasing its benefits when either you or another player chooses it.
Bring territories into your empire, raid keeps and villages, pillage farms, walls, or towers, or even fight sea battles against ships and serpents alike. You can use guaranteed resources you know you have, or take a chance with the dice and hope the favor of the gods is on your side.
In the end, only the clan with the most glory will triumph in Reavers of Midgard from Grey Fox Games.
Grey Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted.
The games. Okay.
Oh, hey everybody, it is Saturday, 8:41 p.m. on Saturday of Gen Con. We have just eaten the largest cheeseburgers ever known to man at Kuma's Corner, because that's what we do literally all the time.
Don't tell no, not all the time, once a year.
Continually, from now until next Gen Con, we're going to eat at Kuma's Corner.
I will die. Shane also may die.
Yeah. Speaking of Shane being dead, Shane is being replaced in this episode by special guest star Gates.
Hello.
Gates, say hi, Gates.
Hello.
Hello. Gates.
Shane is not actually dead, for the record.
He's sitting on the
Shane,
bed next to him.
Announce yourself from a distance.
Not dead!
See, he's
Yay.
totally alive and not dead. Saturday at Gen Con. Saturday, how did you feel about this year's Saturday versus the other few days? Was this busier than other days?
I would say it's busier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was, so coming from the perspective of being in a booth, I mean, our sales were the largest today.
Yeah, okay.
So, but I think every day you make changes to help the bottlenecks and the flow go better, which we did. So I don't feel like we were as slammed, but we definitely sold more.
I felt like today was just packed full of people, but honestly, every single day this week has felt the same level of dense to me. I felt like Friday was a little bit lighter, but not significantly lighter as it had been in previous years.
Yeah.
And it's just this steady, everything is happening all of the time at Gen Con.
Yeah.
I am continually glad that I take opportunities to get out of the exhibit hall in the middle of the day.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
lucky
got
you.
stuck at the cosplay parade today.
That's true. We did get kind of...
That's what was happening.
This is a thing that I forget every year at Gen Con. On Saturday afternoon, you get bottlenecked by the cosplay parade if you were not aware where you were going. And we were trying our best to get over to the Elf Creek Games headquarters booth to kind of just say, hey, see how they're doing, see, Honey Buzz and all the other stuff. But we came in the bottom half of the event hall, and it was just no, you don't get to walk. You're going to stand here. So we
It
did
was
that.
only 10 minutes. We lived.
It was a lot shorter than I remembered it being, but mainly just because I remember it being 7.5 hours long in the last few years.
That's unreasonable.
I'm sorry, I'm having a drink of beverage. I was literally hoping that somebody would say a thing.
Oh.
Danielle, what did you get into today at Gen Con?
Well, you and I walked around together in the morning, so you actually know the answer to that.
Yeah, but the listeners don't.
I'm continuing the sentence.
Okay.
We demoed a couple of things at the larger producers that we hadn't gotten into or talked about stuff from. We played, it's Noctilius, I think it's called.
Noctiluca? Noctiliuca?
The one with
You
the
have
dice?
a picture of it. I don't.
I'm going to look it up, talk about the game.
It is a dice game,
Yeah.
which has nice transparent dice, very much like the Sagrada dice.
Noctiluca, designed by Shem Phillips. Published by Z-Man
From
Games.
Z-Man Games.
Z-Man, as we
Where
like to call them.
you have a board with a bunch of different hexes on it, and everybody is placing their pawns around the outside of the board and selecting a number, and they'll take any dice in a straight line in one of the two directions from that position on the outside of the board and use them to fulfill essentially contracts to, I think it's herbal shops in the town.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
who you're sending them to. And the later in the game you fulfill the contracts, the more points they're worth, and whoever has fulfilled the most of a certain color of contracts will get the remainder that were not taken by other players as single point chits. So you want to have late game fulfillment of contracts that not a lot of other people have fulfilled to maximize your points.
Yeah, this was really interesting to me. Usually when I see these kind of things, you get the most points when you fulfill a contract in a particular category first. But I guess because they want to give you that risk reward of if you're getting a lot of this contract, then the points you get for having a majority later on won't be as much. It was really interesting to see that kind of backwardsness on that. And I just I really, really loved the dice selection mechanic because, we've talked about Seikatsu in the past, which is kind of a similar think along two different lines kind of game. And this had that same kind of thing where you've got to, I got to place here and I got to look at this line and see which number I'm going to pick to get the dice of the colors that I need, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah.
Make sure I'm not leaving a bunch of a number that somebody else can take to fulfill their contracts. After that, we got to play Wordsmith,
Yeah.
which was from...
Somebody under the Asmadi umbrella. I'm going to look it up.
Next time you're sending me the photos before we start this.
All right. It is from Asmodee.
Okay.
Or was it one of those like side
It's one of their
things?
studios, but it's in the Asmadi zone, and it's
Okay.
like the letter,
Like where it was like Flip Over Frog.
the letter
Wait.
piece game system is what they're calling it, and the logo is a bear wearing a striped shirt flipping a die.
Hold on, what?
As-
Wordsmith and it's a bear?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the logo.
The logo of the
Oh,
whatever
gotcha.
studio it is. It's Bill Eberl, Greg Olotka, and Peter Olotka.
Ah,
Okay, it is a game where you're getting portions of letters. You're either getting what look like U-turns, or small little lines, or larger lines, or a semicircle, and you are using them to complete words by arranging them in the shapes of letters that are specified by the side of the box. So you need to be able to see the side of the box and make sure that you are making the letters not in the way that makes sense to your brain, but in the way that is specified by the game. You are going to have the opportunity to roll a die that will give you different shapes or additional shapes of the same shapes to add to your pool of letters. When you make a word, you write down the word. Anything you have to discard is going to go against a check line, and if you discard more than 6 pieces, you are going to start losing points. You can't discard more than 12 pieces. When somebody makes 6 words, then everybody else will get one more chance to make a word. You'll add up the number of letters in each word and subtract any points you might have lost from discarding extra pieces. Whoever has the most points wins.
Yes.
This game was fine. I feel like it probably would have been better if we did not play it with an elementary school aged child and her father. Because, I mean, she just... And honestly, I did the same thing. I'm not going to shade that girl. She was fine. But, like... The green piece by itself looks like a lowercase u.
Yeah.
But in order to make a U according to the side of the box, you needed the green piece on the bottom and then
yellows.
2 yellows to extend it up to make a capital U. Because apparently we're only writing in capitals. But she was just trying to make words, and she had the green piece as a U. And then the person who was demoing it was correctly saying, oh, no, you need to do it in the way that the box says, because that's how the game is played. But at the same time, it's like, but no, that's a U. We all understand that to
Yeah.
be a U.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Yeah. The best word that I was able to make was dang.
Yeah.
Kind of sums up my feeling for how well I played this game.
It was fine. I don't need it. There
Yeah.
are word games that I like way better, but it is a game that has clear plastic pieces, if that's a selling point for you.
I'm more excited in a game called Decipher, which is yet to come. It's in the same series. It uses the same set of pieces, but one, it has Kwanchai Moriarty
I was
for the
going to
cover.
say, who did
Yeah.
the art for that one?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going to immediately go after anything Kwanchai. But it is a deduction game where one person has set a word and the other players are kind of looking at 5 different channels, each representing one of the places in a word, and they're going to kind of put out a piece to say, is there a piece in the build of this letter? And kind of do a deduction style thing from that. And that seemed really interesting to me. So that is called Decipher, and this one is coming, I guess, early next year from them. So I'm excited to see what that one does, because it looks like it does the same kind of thing with the letter building, but I like deduction a lot. You all heard me talk about, the Search for Planet X on the Last Night podcast.
Yeah.
And yes.
Oh, so you got a chance to playtest it?
I got to take a look at it briefly,
Oh, okay.
but I did not get to play test it. And I also did not get to play test it today, which sucks because I want to play it so badly.
Yeah.
You will. You will
Oh, yeah.
eventually
I will
get to
eventually
play.
get to play. That is the truth of many, many games we saw, is that we will eventually get to play them.
You get to play a game about like stacking stuff that you were real good at today.
Okay, so yeah, we got a chance to demo Mega City Oceana, which is from Hub Games. It's being also published by Asmodee, because Asmodee has to have their fingers in everything. And this is a game of, I guess, taking contracts that tell you how you're going to build on these hex tiles, and then you take a bunch of pieces out of a plastic bag, or a bunch of plastic pieces out of a bag, and you build them up, and you feel great if you do a giant tower.
Honestly, building the towers in this game made me feel like the absolutely cool art that is in High Rise. Like, I was looking at the buildings,
Ooh,
and they
yeah.
are sort of weirdly angular and not off-symmetrical. That's not a word.
Asymmetrical?
Asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have that same kind of cool thing. So if you've seen the art for High Rise, that's what your buildings are going to end up looking at.
Just
except-
combine your 2 copies.
Yes.
Yeah.
High
I feel like that
Oceana.
would be possibly doing a disservice to the level of depth in High Rise.
Let it be the building parts.
But I had a lot of fun with this. I will say that there's some parts that I didn't love so much. Like, I feel like the pacing was a little funky, because you would get to the point where, maybe your 2 actions are, I'm going to take 3 pieces twice, and then the next player is trying to get their building to be stable, and we're all just kind of like sitting there staring and be like, "You're gonna build that building, man?" And he's like, "I'm trying my best."
Well, in that situation, you'd at least have pieces that you could be building on and off turn.
Yeah.
The problem that I think was worse than that was if you don't have pieces. If you've taken a contract and a tile, and you're just waiting for the bag to come around to you, but you have to wait for the other players to construct their thing, and they're trying to very carefully make this very tall tower, fulfilling the conditions, and you're like, I'm gonna sit here and play on my phone.
Yeah, I will say, like, it looked really cool, and I want to play this more. I'm sure we'll talk about this again in the future. I wanted to get a copy, but they were all sold out today, so that's just the way life is. Hopefully we get to see it again in the future. But I was very happy with myself that I built something that was bigger than the ruler. It was about 170 stories tall in game terminology.
Which is millimeters for normal people.
I tweeted it at the game designer, and he came back at me and says, "Let me know when you get over 265. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
He made fun of you.
So this is where we're going to get. But I actually, completely side noting, I got a chance to actually swing by the Hub Games booth because they had their own booth as well. Talk to them about Holding On, The Life of Billy Kerr, and their design process for that.
Yeah.
And I am more interested to play this now. That's a game that I've really wanted to play because I love like walking simulator style games of.
Yeah.
And I really want board games to do some art, like some real heavy art. Have you played it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to play it. It was at the end of last year. I got to play with my friends when I was down in Oklahoma City, and I don't like cooperative games.
Okay.
And we can have that whole conversation later. But it made me like cooperative games in the sense that you were like, somebody passes to be the head nurse every single turn. And then they assign people to the rooms. And whoever's pawns are in that room gets to make the decision. So it eliminates like the quarterbacking effect. But also, whenever you played the scenario, it has a really awesome scenario mode where you get a taste of everything. And you're like, oh, I want to either uncover the story or you're wanting to more effectively play. Like, it definitely touches the depths of every type of gamer. The content, and I feel like everybody has said this, like the content is a little like depending if it could be triggering. I don't recommend playing it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty heavy stuff.
I was wondering, like, are they planning on doing something with even like the same system? Like if they do that type of system with another game where it tells a story. Did you say anything?
I'm glad you asked.
So much like a conversation we had yesterday.
Because
transition.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
I talked with Michael and Rory at the booth, at the Hub Games booth, and they are 100% working on the follow-up.
Awesome.
And the tease that they gave me is that they are going to break whatever preconceptions you have about what the next one will be.
Okay.
So, like, I honestly, at this point, I feel like Holding On and Escape Tales from Board and Dice are like kindred spirits of just like, we're going to try something crazy, and the next one's going to break your freaking brain.
I still need to play Escape Tales.
Yes.
Yo, Gates.
Like, so the internet broke when they announced the next one. I'm
Holy
like,
crap.
I am missing out on some hotness.
By the internet broke, you mean I couldn't stop screaming about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, whenever you end up listening to the parts of this episode you're not on, we got to see it yesterday. Yeah. Holy crap. Holy crap. Holy crap. Holy crap. Holy crap. I'm so excited. But so I'm really excited to see what Michael and Rory do with the next part in this series because I've been a big fan of walking simulator style video games. Like What Remains of Edith Finch has come up a lot, and Gone Home has come up a lot.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, like what fits in that genre that you're talking about. Gone Home.
I want some board games that start to make you feel stuff.
Yeah. Like Life is Strange. Would that be okay,
Exactly.
Okay, now I
like,
understand where you're going.
I want to have some games that make you feel stuff because why the heck not, right? Let's push this concept a little bit further. But I digress. It seems like a really awesome thing, and I'm looking forward to playing Holding On in the near future. But anyway, Mega City Oceania, really cool, and I want to play it some more and see if I can I want to break the world record for the tallness of it.
Just before we wrap up the stuff that we got to play right there, we did get to play One Key, which is fine.
Yeah,
it's a game where you've got cards and the pictures are sort of multifaceted, and the person who is in charge of the round is deciding how connected to the card that they have selected as the one key each of the clues that they're giving you are, and you can have either very connected, moderately connected, or not connected at all, and they are deciding that of their own opinion, which I kind of disagreed with the demoer's opinion. So it's fine. You're trying to figure out which ones you can eliminate based on the connections of the clue cards. It was okay. I mean, there are a lot of these sort of connecting games. I talked about Detective Club. We've talked about, obviously, Mysterium and Dixit and that type of thing in the past. This is a very light, quick one. It's fine.
It's fine. I don't feel a need to play One Key when we have things like Mysterium.
Was it nominated for a Spiel? Was it in one of the
It wouldn't surprise me if it was in like at least a recommended category.
Yeah, or something. Because I remember whenever it hit the game store I work at, it was like, we know nothing about this. And I was like, oh, this is the one game that's on the spiel that I
Or are you thinking just one?
No.
Okay, good.
Because like it came into the store, I'm like, I haven't heard anything about this game.
Yeah, it seems like the
very
kind of
weird.
thing that's one of those kind of like award bait kind of games.
It's by the same company that did Mysterium, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
Like
I think it's one of the designers as well.
Oh.
Libelood, it's a Libelood game?
Yeah.
Libelood.
Yeah, with the dragonfly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know, it's fine. I don't need it, especially when we have other stuff kind of in that vein already, but it is what it is, so maybe it is the game for you. Who knows? One key. Gates, I feel like we have dominated everything about this. I would love to hear how your con experience has been. You've been working at a booth the whole time.
Yes, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You haven't really been dominating. I'm living vicariously through you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like every single time I see someone, I was like, what games have you seen? I've only been able to see whatever the booths I pass while I go to the event hall, and then when I make my way back, so I try to take a different route.
Yeah.
I would say as far as games outside of the Leader Games booth, I got Emotep Duel instantly, and that was the game that you and I played at Origins.
Yes. I'm glad you got a copy of that. They've sold out.
Yeah,
they ran out of that. They brought like 3 billion copies of it.
Did you get a copy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
That was a day one guess.
Okay, yeah, that was before the hall opened. That was the first thing I got.
Good.
So very, very excited about that one, and then ended up getting Cartographers.
Yeah, the role player roll and write thingy.
Yes. Yeah. So interested to see how that goes. Flip Over Frog.
Yeah. Oh, that's from Hub Games?
Hub Games.
So I've never seen that other than like seeing it on the back of the booth.
box that I
What
showed
in
you.
the world is that?
So I would describe it as an area control game. I think that's the best way. Everybody ends up taking a different color of a frog. This game used to be came over from a Japanese game. And I think I've described it to you all off the podcast, that they were originally chibi characters. Hub brought it over and just made them different colored frogs. But you have a 4x4 grid. Everybody at the beginning of the game gets a color of frog that is hidden to everybody else.
Yeah.
And you end up taking up a hand of 2. So I would compare it to, what was the bird game that we were mentioning at
Seikatsu?
Seikatsu, yeah. Where you are playing one and taking one.
Oh, okay.
And whatever you play, it has arrows pointing, and you end up flipping those cards around them.
Ooh.
And then you can play on the back of a frog, if that space is free, and then flip the cards. And so at the end of the game, you have whatever is finished with a certain color card or frog dominating, area control wise, and then you add up the points and the person wins. It sounds a lot more it sounds really simple of what I'm describing, but it has this really interesting, like, you're trying to figure out what color your opponents are, so you're not flipping over, and you're also trying to remember what was underneath the frog that you could be flipping over. Plays in 15 minutes.
Cool. So
I'm really excited that I picked up that. And then what else did I buy? Oh, and then Eric Yurko and I played on day 0 on Wednesday, Cake Duel.
Oh yeah.
Which is
Cake Duel this year.
Yeah, which is like a super mean, like, 2-player bluffing game.
Okay.
And I don't want to say super mean. If you've played it with somebody who's played it 100 times, like Eric has, and has all the promo cards, and he knows exactly everything does. And I'm like, outside of the game, he's still playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know what I can believe about you right now.
That's kind of the Yurko situation in general. When is he playing and when is he existing?
Yeah. And the whole purpose of Cake Duel, it's been out for a while now. But you're basically trading off being in the attacker or the defender, and I'm trying to steal your cakes. The end of the round can finish if one person's taken all of the cakes, or if we end up catching each other in a bluff. Play my cards face down. I'll be like, hey, I have 2 wizards. Each wizard can steal 2 cakes. And if,
As is always the case.
Wizards are able to steal cakes.
And the only thing that can stop the wizard is a scientist.
Okay,
You know, I like that.
Science stop magic.
And then there's like these crazy promos or additional cards that you can get where like you can't speak, or it's a certain copy about another card that you played previously, and it's just a lot of bluffing. It's super cute and fun. But anyway, Eric brought that over, bought it on my behalf.
Aw,
and so,
what a nice guy.
yeah. But yeah, so far those are the games that I have purchased and seen.
Yeah.
What else am I excited? Wayfinders from Pandasaurus. They announced that yesterday.
Okay, what is this? I know nothing about this.
Yeah, so this was actually a game that I saw in prototype form, and it's I kind of want to compare it to one of the Century Spice Road games. One of the Century games. But it's in a pick up deliver. in the sense where you're kind of contract filling and then moving depending on what you have in your boat. I'm pretty sure, at least the version I played. But to now see it in like cover art publishing form is really interesting.
It's based on a graphic novel series, correct?
I don't think so. But there is the Wayfinders graphic novel. I'm going to look up a little bit more about this before I...
This is spoiling my
use
later stuff. I
technology.
feel like I demoed a game at Pandasaurus later in the day, and I feel like the demoer had mentioned that to me.
So, whimsical route builder with the creator of Decrypto. Yeah. And that's
Wait, creators to Decrypto?
Yeah.
I like
This is
Decrypto.
not what I was thinking. I don't think this is what I was thinking of. But that is really cool.
Yeah, and then also Pandasaurus picked up silver and gold.
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Because it's Philip Walker Harding.
Has that been around a while, or has it just been kind of floating around?
The same people who published The Mind originally in NSV.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Also just Philip Walker Harding is
Phil Walker Harding.
Yeah, but he was all over this Gen Con. You can't just say, oh, it was a Phil Walker Harding game.
Yeah. that one.
You know, that
Game that was
one.
released on Earth.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say to kind of sound hip and cool, Wayfinders would be one I would suggest people looking into.
Keep an eyeball on it. Put your eyeballs directly on the
it's
Wayfinders.
not on BGG.
Doesn't exist.
It's that game that people are tweeting about
This is
not
hype.
being on BGG.
This is what hype is, the internet. Be hyped with us.
Yeah.
By the time you hear this podcast, it'll be on BGG. But pretend in the world that you did not yet know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Danielle, what else did you get into today?
Well, I, with you again, got to watch a playtest of Schedule Simulator, which is a game...
From Gather Round Games.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry, I saw
You
this
know
one
this?
at Unpub. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, keep talking.
We actually
I'm so excited.
got into that particular playtest watching because a friend of the show, Will Foy, who you obviously have heard if you listen to this podcast in our final rounds, and
Or
he's
if
been
you are
on
Will
it.
Foy, you've heard it.
Yeah.
yourself.
Well, no, he did a con wrap up for Unpub for us
Oh, yeah,
as well.
he was on the show.
Yeah. So
yeah.
awesome.
He had said, like, if there was one game of the con from Unpub that
Yes.
that we had to see, it was that.
Yep.
So they were demoing here, obviously, and we didn't. We prepared poorly and didn't get playtest tickets, but we were able to sit in and watch a playtest. And I know the game is still going through absolutely massive changes, but I'm excited to see where it ends up because the nut at the heart of it was really exciting, where you are making plans with your friends, and depending on how well you can efficiently make plans with your friends and manage your obligations, you're going to get a bunch of points for having plans with your friends and still, being able to fill out your schedule. I don't really want to talk about the way the game plays more than that because it is so in flux, but I am really excited to see where this is. As a person who is obsessed with spreadsheets and had a giant oak tag calendar of my schedule every year when I was in college where I managed everything out to the hour and everything, it had post-it notes. I am a schedule nerd, and this was very exciting for me, so I'm very excited to see where that turns out.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on it, out for it, whatever, but I don't want to talk about it more than that. It was fun, though.
I'm super excited to see how this one progresses as well. It's got a real-time aspect to it.
Okay,
and that
good.
all
They
of
kept
the
that.
all of the
Awesome.
all of the negotiation of making your deals of like, hey, let's hang out on Thursday afternoon is all real time. So you have this real time segment of the game where you're filling out your schedule, and I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to see how they continue to refine this and kind of polish it up, and hopefully see where this one is in the next year or so.
Yeah. And this is the same publisher that did Someone Has Died.
Yes.
Which has been
Have you played that? You had a chance to play that?
Yes, yeah. I got to run it. I always ran it in demos. But
Okay.
So you don't get the full essence of it, but it definitely, and I think Actual had mentioned that as like one of his
Oh, okay.
favorite games too. But always watching people demo it, it's just awkwardly hilarious because it puts you in this weird place of like, okay, so we're at a reading of a will, and I have to defend myself, and I'm a dog of why I should get whatever's in this will. And so a lot of
Peppers.
yeah, I'm the Q poppers. That's why I should get everything. So I'm interested to see with the schedule planner thing to add that little like quirky chaos to it. But whenever I saw it on Pub, it was phenomenal. So I'm glad they have it here.
I also, after that, I went over to the Pandasaurus headquarters area in the game testing hall, essentially, the ICC hall. And I got to play Dead Man's Cabal, which is a game that I bought a ticket to because I knew I was never going to learn to play it if somebody didn't teach it to me. And a lovely demoer named Missy taught it to me, and I played it.
And the statement is...
That is totally fine.
I don't want to say, like, I had some problems with our playthrough, which is that because of a combination of incredibly bad luck in the distribution of the actions that were available to us, for the first almost half the game, we did not have the action that allowed us to get more resources available to us.
Oh no.
Because we
Resources, kind of important.
we just weren't drawing, and a lot of the actions in this game are determined by drawing these little skull meeples, which are incredibly detailed and very cool looking and come in 4 colors, out of a bag blindly. And you need to be able to take the red skull action to be able to get additional skulls. But we weren't drawing any. They weren't coming out.
Oofta.
Everybody starts with one, but having never played the game before, I had placed it onto the thing that I needed to use it for in the end game, early in the game. That was my fault. I would not do that again if I played this game again. But also, it was just incredibly bad luck that we weren't drawing any.
Yeah.
So, a combination of the cards that I was dealt at the beginning and the fact that I couldn't get more resources meant that I was out of this game for about a third of it and ended up 100 points behind in a 200 and change point game. That being said, it does have cool stuff. Like, I like the way that you draw these skulls out, and depending on what color they are, well, no matter what color they are, you put them into this grid, and whatever they push out the other side, you get that skull. Then you play one of the skulls that you have in your possession for its action ability. That gives you a private action. There are 4 different private actions. The gold skull gives you the ability to get more card because, I forgot to tell you the theme. You are a necromancer who doesn't have any friends, but you want to have a party, so you need to raise some undead.
It's like real life.
So that you can have a party. The art is very cool. A lot of the undead that you're raising look like very familiar folks. There was a Janet Jackson that we could easily identify. There was a David Bowie that you could easily identify. There was definitely a Dolly Parton that you could easily identify. But, I mean, it's very cool art. It looks very cool. Everything in this game looks very cool. The bones that you're collecting as currency for taking extra actions are very well sculpted. They have, like, the hip ball joint and the whole, like, femur. It's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
So you draw a skull out of this bag, you put it into this grid, and whatever it pushes out the other side, you take that. You play one of the skulls, either take more cards with the gold skull, take more skulls with a red skull, which is the one that we couldn't get. Take some additional tokens that will give you a way to score points with a white skull, or place skulls onto this summoning grid so that you can raise the undead with your traditional necromantic garbage, you know.
Necromantic.
The second thing that happens after you play a skull to take your private action is that whatever the majority color in the center row of the grid is, you then have a public action which is of that type. You can't have the same public action twice in a row, so if you've just done the one that is now the majority, it will move to one of the other colors that is in that row, and if it is all the same color that you've just done, you can pick whichever one you want. We never had that happen either. We're never able to just pick. But you are then going to have everybody have a chance to do that, starting with the active player. So that's kind of cool. You get 2 actions on your turn, and everybody's getting to take an action on everybody else's turns. You're going to play until somebody has raised 7 undead, or somebody has placed all of their cubes. You're going to place out some of your cubes, which are not really super thematic, when you take those tokens that give you a ways to score points that I mentioned with a white skull, or when you raise an undead and you have the correct tokens that go with them, you will place them on some endgame scoring conditions that are going to give you points for the number of colored skulls you are using to raise the undead, or possibly just the number of tokens that you've taken in a row. There's one that's just 20 points at the end of the game if you've got the majority on that. And that's going to be a first place gets a better reward, second place gets a lesser reward type of scenario.
Rewards.
The way that you raise the undead is there is a sort of pentagram style grid thing. It's like a combination of a pentagram and a grid.
Okay.
And you're placing the skulls out onto that. You want to be able to connect the colors that are specified on each undead card in your hand in a straight line so that you can, like, it may say 2 white and 2 red. You need to connect them without being interrupted by an empty space or another skull that's not part of the pattern. When you are doing a black raise the dead action, if you can do that, you get to do a raise the dead. You place the card in front of you. If you've got the tokens listed on it, you place the tokens and you get to place the cubes for points.
Okay.
You do this, like I said, until somebody's raised 7 undead or somebody runs out of cubes, then everybody gets another turn and you're done. It's fine. It's good. Like,
Yeah.
I would like to play it again at some point, hoping that it doesn't have the same really just confluence of bad situations come together. But I'm not going to buy it.
Cool.
It looks real cool.
Yeah, the production looks fantastic. But then that's kind of what you need at this point in the game.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that you can throw a wrench in it to that degree was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, okay.
I also don't know why they were booking 3-hour demo slots. It's a 60-minute game.
Got to have that extra time to, luxuriate in the decisions you've made.
Luxuriate in the hip joints.
Yeah, luxuriate in whatever you need to. Speaking of luxuriating, we ended our day with a luxurious dinner at Kuma's Corner, which is what we do, because, it was so good. Gates, this is the first time you've had a Kuma's burger. How'd you feel?
Yes. It was delicious. Yes. Just yes.
That's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the place is an experience.
Oh, it's so good.
That is the best way to describe it. I wish I just got the mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese is really good.
Yeah, the mac and cheese is delicious. The burgers were great.
Did you get a burger and a mac?
No.
Oh,
you had
okay.
the burger and the mac.
Did you eat some of our mac?
I ate some of who was sitting right across
That was
from
Jeff.
me.
Jeff's
mac.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was really great. I mean, everything about it was super good.
So good.
What did I end up getting? I got something I completely not.
You got a
I can't
giant burger.
Yeah,
And it was great.
everybody got giant burgers.
There's no way to do a small burger at Kuma's Corner.
It's so good. And then Brad ate all of his, which is, well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he
actually.
seems like he can eat some food.
Yeah. It goes someplace. I don't know.
It all goes in.
But yeah. It was really good though. The beer was great too. I ended up having. What did I end up having?
It was very
something
pink, whatever you ended up
youth.
having.
Yeah, it was like a raspberry lemon cider. So that was very delicious. And whatever you had to drink was awesome.
I had a lavender blueberry sour, which
That
was
was
called
good.
Angrier Yoga.
Angrier
Angrier yoga.
And I also had a goza that was like a green pepper, red pepper and coriander, and it was a very like herbal flavored goza, which I enjoyed quite a bit. But I think it was gone by the time you looked over to see what it was.
Sad.
And then I got water on my pants, but that's a story
happens.
for
I mean,
another day.
I feel like somebody else
To be fair,
caused the water to
I
come
may
on
have
your
dropped a
pants.
glass of water, but this is the things that happens
Yeah.
because that's how life is. How are you doing? You
Yeah, I'm fine.
dried off?
I mean, I'm sitting on
You
your
sure
bed
you're going to be
now.
okay?
She's died.
I'm dead.
Literally dead. All this time, Gates was the
D&D.
Wicked Witch of the West
Bye.
and has melted. Well, it is time for us to go to a bottle share, which is the thing that we do. So if you are going to the bottle share, you're hearing this in the future. Not a great conversation piece for a podcast, but I hope you all have enjoyed it. We will be back at some point tomorrow, I don't know when, to talk about our Sunday and the wrap-up of Gen Con. Gates, say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
All right, everybody else, Danielle, good night.
Bye.
Yay.
Want a second opinion on some of the games we talked about on this episode? Check out some other great content creators at punchboardmedia.com.
Alrighty, it is late Sunday night. We have made it home before 1 a.m. for the first time.
It's not as late as it normally is when we do this.
No, we got a good start today, and got to go back into the exhibit hall a little bit, say goodbye to some peeps, and get on our way at a reasonable time. But I guess we should check in everything since we checked in before going to dinner last night, and we'll just wrap this one up over the next few minutes, yeah?
Yeah, it was after dinner before the bottle share. The bottle share went very well. If you showed up at that, thank you very much. It was an excellent time. I had an excellent time. I hope you did.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really it's such a great cap to the end of the weekend, and just always something zany going on there at the bottle share.
I did get one game in at the bottle share. I got to play Flipping Frogs, which was a game that Gates from Later Games had brought. And
It's from Hub Games, I believe.
It is, yes. I meant she is from Later Games.
Right.
It is from Hub, and it is a game where you are placing these frog tokens out onto I believe it's a 4x4 grid, could be 5x5. And each of the frogs have either orthogonal or diagonal arrows on them, and they are of one of the 4 colors that you can play. And the object is, once all of the tokens have been placed out onto the board, to have the most face-up frogs of your color. And there are some snakes, which will remove face-up frogs. But there are also a mechanic where if you place a frog, all of the frogs that are already on the board in positions that the arrows point to, so if you place a frog with orthogonal arrows, one's in orthogonal positions, if you place the diagonal arrows, one's off the corners, they are going to flip over. So if you've got a face-up frog there, just a single face-up frog, it will flip over and become face down. that means that somebody else on their turn can place a frog face up on the back-to-back, so that if it gets flipped again, it will return to the original, and it'll just keep flipping at that point. So you have to remember what's on the back of the frogs that are on the board, to try to remember where yours are, to flip them back face up if they've been face down. And you need to be able to hang on to tiles that you know will be able to flip the things that you need flipped at the time you need them flipped. The snakes you kind of luck into. It means you don't get to change the board state by flipping stuff, but you do get to remove other frogs, so maybe clear off somebody who has a lot of frogs face up, or if you need to create a space to place on the back, you can do that with a snake. It was a fun little game. Like, it was thinkier than I originally thought it would be, but it wasn't, like, absolutely brain-burning to the point where you can't just have a conversation while you're doing it. And it's over quick enough that whoever is the winner is... It's fine if you want to play again to see if you can beat them.
Y'all were able to play it at the bottle share, so obviously, yeah.
The other thing about it is it didn't have a tiebreaker, which seemed kind of a silly.
Rejoice in your shared
point.
Victory.
But again, just play again at that point.
Oh, we actually, I forgot, we also played a few rounds of Wobble King from HABA. This is something that was just released here at the show, and that was some funny stuff. Basically, you have a cardboard platform that is supported by a bunch of little wooden discs that represent treasure, and on top of it you have this kind of wobbly king lion meeple, who's the king.
He's got a rounded butt.
Yeah, he's got a rounded butt, so he'll wobble a little bit. But what you're doing is you're trying to sneak the treasure tokens, which are those round discs, out from underneath the rug, which is the cardboard, rug there, by using the servant's staff or whatever it is.
The guard staff.
The guard staff, thank you. Which is just a small dowel. You have to just kind of slide the tokens out from underneath without looking, and if anything falls over, you get a negative point, one of the rotten tomato that is thrown at you, and if you have two of them hit, or if you get 2 rotten tomatoes, you lose. And this is a game of only one loser and everybody else wins, kind of thing. But it's fun. It's a fun little dexterity game. I was playing with Jeff from Mile High Game Guys, and we played maybe 3 rounds in a row where we got it to the completely full position. So it's possible to fill up all of the spots after you take the tokens out. You have to place them on top of the rug on specific spots, and it is actually possible to put all of the tokens up on the rug and not have anything fall over yet, because there's 2 more tokens than there are spaces. So Jeff and I definitely did 3 rounds in a row of as perfect as you can possibly do. So we feel like we're the best people in the world to steal treasure from a king under his blanket in the future, because this is obviously very representative of how it works in real life.
It's a family-weight game. I think mayhaps this is meant to be played with folks who have a little bit less nerves of steel.
Quite.
Perhaps small children.
Or perhaps medium children. But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun little dexterity game. HABA always has the most interesting and unique kind of mechanics, and I just love these little things like this that just have weirdness to them, like Rhino Hero or Go Cuckoo before it. Let's see. I mean, the bottle share was fantastic. Again, thanks to everybody who came out. And I guess I kind of just want to say thanks to everybody at all that we met at Gen Con. It's just like every year seems like we meet more and more people and, run into a few listeners here and there as well. By all means, if you ever see us in public and you see Draft Mechanic t-shirts, come up and say hi. And we'll, be like, why? What? You listen to us? Why? I don't understand. But thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great to meet everybody. And I think this was just a really good Gen Con. Not so much from like a hot games perspective. There was nothing that was like absolutely, I mean, maybe 1 or 2 things that everybody was excited about, but it wasn't like the year where huge things are drawing everybody's attention.
Yeah.
But I think that meant that like you could just relax a little bit and see what was there and talk to people and see what was something that you could get excited about, but you personally were excited about it, not just like, oh, this is the hot thing.
Yeah, I have a handful of, we have a handful of games in the games bags that are interesting and I'm excited to get to in the near future. So we will obviously be hearing about those in coming episodes. And yeah, we got a chance to go to Taft's Ale House. We had our tri-tip, and it was so good, as always.
Yeah, we always stop there on the way home. We stop in Cincinnati and over the Rhine. we always have delicious Taft's food and beer, and then head over to Rheingeist, which, if you manage to catch my Twitter, I have revised my statements on Rheingeist Taproom from our Taproom episode. It's probably still one of my 6 favorite taprooms, but no longer because it gives me like a cool but also really uneasy feeling. They've done some renovation. They've opened a rooftop bar. They've actually made the inside of their main space feel not creepy to me.
It was also much, much nicer weather today. That's one thing that was really just across the board true about this Gen Con. It was like the nicest weather we've had at a Gen Con in many, many years.
Yeah, it was like mid-80s and it didn't rain, which was nice. So if you are in the Cincinnati area, I highly recommend you check out Rheingeist space, and also obviously Taft's. We have been unabashedly enthusiastic about that before. We just kept going.
Yeah. Nice easy drive home. Only 4 or 5 lane closures. I'm about ready to call this one. You got anything else in particular from the convention you'd like to talk about?
No, man, this thing is too long already.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening so much. As always, draftmechanic.net, at draftmechanic on your social medias of choice, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, draftmechanic@gmail.com. You can always, use all those things to get in contact with us as you would.
And we'll be back with our local Charlotte meetups on the 3rd Tuesday, which I believe is August 20th.
Yeah, and that one will be at Salud Cerveceria. We will see you upstairs. We will bring some of these hot new games from Gen Con, undoubtedly. And Draft Mechanic is sponsored by Grey Fox Games, by the way, if you did not know. Their new game, After the Empire, is coming to Kickstarter, I believe, next Tuesday, the 13th. So put that in your calendar right now. I have played After the Empire, and this is not the sponsorship talking, but this is me talking. I am super excited to see how this one has progressed. So yeah, check out After the Empire, and of course, hit up greyfoxgames.com and sign up their newsletter for the latest.
Grey Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted.
Oh, okay. So
Gotta
that's
say the thing.
I knew I forgot something. Well,
you forgot a couple of things.
What else did I forget?
As always, I would like to remind our listeners to please game responsibly, particularly across several state lines, and tell them that we'll see them back here in 2 weeks for another round.
Sounds great. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Draft Mechanic episode 107 was recorded live in Indianapolis in our hotel room the weekend of Gen Con 2019. You can probably look up the dates.
Beauty is in your eyes, you are the beholder. You render me stricken. Do not go gently into that gutter line.
Hey, this is Patrick
And this is Eric
from
Patrick and Eric in the morning. Join us every now and again for about a half an hour as we freeform chat about whatever's on our minds and how it all relates back to our favorite hobby, board gaming.
Patrick and Eric in the Morning can be found on the What Did You Play This Week podcast feed and on the Punchboard Media site.
Happy listening.
Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with more Louisiana flavor. Tonari, mes chiens. We love talking board games. That's why we started up Gumbo Live, the #1 Facebook live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Each week, we interview guests from your hobby, publishers, designers, content creators, and you get to ask them whatever you like. It's a live show. So join us at Board Game Gumbo on Facebook every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Central for another episode of Gumbo Live. And until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.
Hey out there in podcast land, this is Brian, and I just wanted to invite you to check out my tabletop game review and preview video channel, Cloak and Meeple. There, I check out a lot of Kickstarter games, as well as sneak in some fresh reviews of published games. Come and check out all of the bad acting in my attempts to be entertaining in my intros. Stay for a game overview and hear my thoughts of the game at the very end. You can find Cloak and Meeple on YouTube at youtube.com/cloakandmeeple.
Hey, I'm Eric Dewey. And I'm Donald Dennis. And together we are the madmen behind Onboard Games.
Indeed, for the past dozen years or so, we've been putting out a podcast that you should be listening to.
Yeah, after you finish listening to this podcast.
Exactly. So what do we do on our show, Don?
We got a lot of stuff going on. We have a bunch of great guests, and we do an occasional triple play where we take a type of game, be it mechanic or theme, and we talk it up for a while, and we pick, hey, what's a great introductory version of that game? What's a game that is good for people who've been gaming for a long time? And what is, I don't know, a weird or strange version of that type of game?
But you're thinking, as much as I love to hear Eric and Don, I would love to hear other voices too. We've got you covered there as well. We have
Isaac Shalev,
Bruce Vogue III,
Adrian Azell,
Kathleen Mercury,
and, of course, we have some other special segments from folks who drop in from time to time, like Brian Counter, who is counterproductive.
Absolutely, and we have the Argument Hour with Seth Jaffe and T.C. Petty III.
So, all kinds of stuff going on over at Onboard Games, and of course, the most important thing about Onboard Games is that we are proud to be members of Punchboard Media.
That's right. So head over to inversegenius.com, which is where Onboard Games can be found, or visit us as our guild in Guild 325 on Board Game Geek.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.
Let's do a quick level check. Everybody say words.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, you're going to want to have it closer.
Closer?
To you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Shane is on 1. Okay.
Hello, hello, hello.
Danielle?
You were invited to the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. The cookies are super buttery for some reason. I don't know why. It was all about being buttery in that little blurb.
All right. All about being buttery.
Butters.
Buttery smooth sound.
Buttery blurb.
Buttery blurbs.
Gross.
I'm going to turn down mine a little bit. I'm going to turn my gain down as well. My gain is already literally as low as it can be.
But sick gains.
Sick gains. Chris Gaines.
Joanna Gaines?
Let's get back to Chris Gaines.
Chris Gaines. All right, cool. Everybody, that was a level check.